All right, chat. Welcome in. Welcome in. The REMINGTOM pod is live. We've got another fun one tonight as we continue to go back and rewatch old finals games. I mean, who knew that it's already been a decade since LeBron and Steph first matched up in the NBA Finals with the Warriors and the Cavs back in the day? And we get to revisit one of the best games in that first playoff, that first final series that they matched up against each other in. Tonight, we've got Game 5 on in the background, firing up here, ready to go for the night. So we just watched, of course, 1995, Shaq versus Hakeem. So it's going to be a fun, just immediate sort of contrast between the two eras as well. You know, we're jumping, a pretty good stretch. Well, I mean, shout out to those Spurs finals runs and stuff that we're just skipping in there. We're just, we're trying not to be biased. I don't know, Chad. It is what it is. But this is, I think a matchup that was a little bit more the rewatch top of the list priority to get back to. So, I mean, we'll definitely dive into this one as well. And also, we will compile a list that we've been teasing out for the summer as well. We've got to figure out who has a chance to be an all-star in the Eastern Conference this year in the NBA because make no mistake, as we know, the East, let's just say there could be a lot of possibilities. That's maybe the best way to look at it. There could be a lot of possibilities, a lot of potential guys have a chance to be on maybe a new name. Who knows what the turnover looks like, because there is, of course, some big injuries that we know, some big absences going to be had from the season next year. But and just the way the league has been reshuffled as well too. It'll be interesting to see who has kind of projected, who in July, end of July, beginning of August, are the projected guys to be sort of that hierarchy for the Eastern Conference. But the 2015 NBA Finals, chat. Hey, yo. And I was looking at this Game 5 as well too. And I was thinking about this quickly because, I mean, shout out to any of the sort of NFL games that we could have watched as well too. I was thinking, do we watch an NFL game? We watched a couple of, we did like an NBA redraft, NBA slam dunk contest. Who knew, chat? We just like the NBA a little bit better, I guess. But I was like, do we watch a Super Bowl or do we watch another finals game? And I really wanted to go back and revisit this series, of course. But this game was really jumping out as well too, because I mean, they were showing LeBron's numbers. I mean, in this series, LeBron is, of course, just crazy. I mean, the series at this point is 2-2 going into Game 5. But here, let's see if we can pull up the box score for this series real quick. Oh, come on. Basketball Reference, you know what the Cavs are if we search for the Cavs as a team. Okay, here we go. 2015 Warriors for this series, Game 5. Okay, so yeah, LeBron with a 40 and 14 right away. Hey, spoiler alert. I guess if you haven't seen 2015 Finals Game 5 or whatever. But you also have Steph with the 37 and just a really great performance from Steph as well too. So this could, and I know the score, what do we got? We got 91 to 104 on the final, but it really is a close game through most of the not just, I guess obviously we're saying close game, but it wasn't just like the score was going back and forth and sort of game of runs, big swings or whatever, or sort of the way that, of course, games seem to happen now where one team will just jump out to like a 20-point lead, and or even a team, like if the lead is in the teens at this point, it literally does. If a team has a 17-point lead in an NBA game now, it literally doesn't matter. It's just like, okay, that's just what happens. The team jumps out in the high teens, and then the other team's gonna make their way back at some point in the game. But this game was really close for most of it, a real battle. Great LeBron versus Steph performances. And you could say arguably the best, and I guess this is going back and rewatching it as well too. You could say arguably just the best pure like Steph versus LeBron game potentially that they played, because I mean, of course, as we know, the next year, I mean, they get the 3-1, but Steph, the performances in that are a little bit up and down. And then they go to the Durant thing where then the narrative of the series just completely flips. And then it becomes, of course, LeBron versus like this Avengers style team of all these Warriors guys. And then they match up. We'd have to go through the matchups and like the Lakers versus, can we locate the play-in games? Did they play in a play-in game? or something like that. But there's been some Lakers Warriors matchups as well too. But that's a different level of stakes than what we're getting here in the NBA Finals, and the competitiveness of those teams. I mean, because the Warriors, the bubble season, they weren't, when the Lakers made their title run, it's not like they were playing the Warriors in the playoffs that year. So when they did match up Lakers Warriors in the playoffs, it was like those teams are not just right at the top of the list to be competing. It's like, oh, this is not the title eliminator series in the Western Conference here necessarily. I mean, even though you'd still have a chance anyways, believing in both those guys. But yeah, we'd have to go through the next series and see the individual matchup of the Steph versus the LeBron games themselves for how that turned out. And that I guess LeBron's just going to have great performances and I mean, shut up, we're not doubting our guy Steph. Obviously, the man is winning the finals and stuff. And okay, so we got the 38 as well too. LeBron in this one, LeBron with a 25, 13 and a casual 25, 13 and 9 for LeBron. But it is what it is. I mean, he has 40 in this game 5 that we're watching here. So the cumulative total of both those guys, what do we do, like a little game score math? I don't know. 21 on the game score for LeBron versus 29 on the game score for Steph. And I think, again, this is kind of similar to what he has in this game here as well. So and I mean, I guess the score is kind of the same, shout out. But, I mean, and then the Cavs, of course, win this series. But this, and the funness of this as well too. I mean, not necessarily the funness of it in the moment, being like, what's happening? Are the Warriors going to take over the league? But the funness going back and watching what is a younger version of these guys. And it is crazy as well too to think of this as a younger version of LeBron, because do we have to even double check how old LeBron was in this in this playoff series as well? 2014-15, it was his 30-year-old season. So I know that is like the sort of turning point to where it should be the guy starts to get older. Like if you look back at his career, it's like, oh, that turned to 30. Where I mean, Jokic and Giannis, we're gonna break the off-season record for bringing up their names in pods this season. But for them entering that kind of phase of their career where you still imagine they would be at the peak of their powers, but like you're like, okay, you can kind of see and it's the IQ of it all as well too that gets worked into it, but you can see that rise to the certain level, and then maybe some of the, even like Giannis, like you go back and watch it's like, of course, even LeBron with Miami, some of the verticality stuff that he had in Miami was crazy. Like Giannis, I don't think is necessarily jumping over Tim Hardaway Jr. quite the same way that he was a couple years ago. I mean, it's just what it is. But he's still got the muscle and the just the physical dominance in a different type of way. But again, LeBron has literally had a decade-long career after this. With this season, I don't know, 10 years after this season. I don't know how you do the basketball math here, but he's 40, and then I guess he'll still be playing this year as well too. So basically an entire, I mean, the Brady as well, the two sort of the 20-year career, it is what it is. But it's just crazy to go back again and look at a 30-year-old, shout out, hot take, but for the sports analysis, the sports side of it, it's just crazy that's like, oh yeah, this was a younger, much more spry, athletic, crazier version of LeBron. And again, it's not like he's like crazy old here, but it should be that turning point into being a veteran as well. And it's just crazy to think about this being a decade ago as well, which, I mean, you think about where we were at with LeBron and Steph this past season, it does make a little bit of sense. Like, okay, you can definitely, I mean, the league has definitely shifted. It's still, they're definitely the marketable guys like we've talked about, but the talent in the league, it's still definitely shifted a little bit. I mean, Steph has probably a little bit of a better chance to get to those like top level performances in a playoff game if he needed to, but I don't know, you just think about him in an entire regular, if he has to carry and be like an MVP for an entire regular season, and then, because that's the thing, I mean, even with a guy like, again, Jokic and Giannis, as much as you want, of course, to build the best team possible around those guys, they're at the point in their careers where it's like, okay, I mean, the Bucks are kind of mid, but they have Giannis, so I mean, he's just gonna overpower everybody and just win 50 games and probably, hopefully, a round of the playoffs or something like that as well too. But of course, if Steph has to just have that kind of impact on his team this year, that is just going to be probably a little bit too much headed into the playoffs, and then his ability to have the durability in the playoffs. And then, again, it would the team construction needs to be proper, and there's still a management thing that would need to happen for him to probably be one of the, 5 best guys. But he could still, right now, probably get to a higher level of impact in a game than LeBron could. Oh, it's close, though. Maybe, again, it's just a little bit more consistently than LeBron at this point. Again, LeBron's 40, AO. It is what it is. But we're pretty close to them still being really impactful playoff guys. And again, I think LeBron is still, I mean, of course, a pretty impactful number 2 guy. I mean, the defensive thing, it's tough. I don't know. I don't know, I guess, what you do. We'll have to see what you do with that going into 2025, 2026. That is a little bit of a head-scratching issue. It's a challenge for J.J. Redick. He's a basketball whiz kid. How do you win a title without playing defense? J.J. Redick, figure it out for us, please. But we got Luka with the transformation as well too. I don't know. There was I don't even remember what show it was. Just one of the Fox or ESPN or something had a picture of a magazine cover with Luka Doncic on it. Let's see if we can find it here real quick. Is this the newest edition of Men's Health? I know it's Men's Health because I had to do a double take on the Luka. Yeah, here we go, chat. I was like, whoa, Luka. Hey, yo. Looking like Tyler Hero. Is this Tyler? Did Photoshop Luka's face on Tyler Hero's body? What's going on? But, and I don't know if Tyler Hero's necessarily ripped up. Luka, it's a little bit of a different thing. I think Tyler Hero would be a little bit more of a bulk. Again, Luka a little bit more of a cut. But regardless, and then Ayo, shout out. Rem does science here. Pause. Ayo, but it is a different body type. The bulking mass is crazy, but it is what it is. Again, science corner. You just have to say the pauses, but it's a little bit different than the cut down, but still maybe it could still be the same amount of mass, but just the way you achieve it still does. I think, I don't know. It's not better or worse. Again, I just think the aesthetic of it is a thing. I don't know. Can you tell? I feel like you can tell. Again, it is what it is. And and maybe that's because if the guy that's really bulking up, it's oh man, he probably went too crazy. But either way, again, Doncic is committing, and I think this is a pretty favorable, again, photo shoot as well too. I don't know if there's some, I mean, definitely some favorable lighting. 2025, it's difficult to say some, there's some oils involved here, but you never know, chat. You never know what was used to make the get the shine going. Ayo, but shows off revenge bod, summer shred. There was a post I saw as well too, about his diet, which I mean that's about, I mean I don't know if I'm assuming he has probably changed his training methods as well too, or just ramped him up a little bit. Because I mean, we say crank? We might as well just say cranked him up at this point. Just lean in, hey yo. But he might have just ramped that up just for the mental aspect of it as well too. It's okay, if we're gonna transform, we're just gonna go all in on the transformation. But the diet thing is gonna be the fun thing for that. That'll help with again, science corner with some of the energy stuff. I mean, guess what? Hot take: fitness is his good fitness levels is gonna help with his endurance and stuff as well too. But a good diet, and I think a good, again, fitness. I mean, it's 50-50 both ways. I mean, what do they say? Abs are made in the kitchen or something like that? I don't know. Who knows, chat? But, yeah, again, I guess the big takeaway is, in shape Luka could be pretty scary. So if the Lakers can just score 140 points a game, then maybe LeBron can still be a number 2 or number 3 on a title team. Or they got Ayton as well. Hey, yo, it is what it is. But, I guess regardless, the point is, a decade later, I was thinking about the decade jumps in NBA history as well, too, because you think about where you go. I mean, Jordan, of course, the 85 playoffs, if I remember, like that 85-86 season, because he would have been 84-85 that rookie season, but that 85-86 season, he would have had that massive playoff performance against Boston. So it's not like, of course, it's several years later before Chicago themselves are actually competing for a title, and MJ's getting those accolades. But you could see the talent start to take hold. Like MJ, in terms of his dominance in the league, again, it already kind of started in 85. So a decade later, again, the 95 finals, technically MJ, making his return to the league. But still, you would imagine I mean, it's always the hypothetical. Who knows? Is MJ going to rip off 8 titles in a row if he's still there in the 90s? I guess, I don't know if we make an official stance on it, but I do think that he might have gone like 4-3, or maybe 3-4. Like maybe, and I guess again the Eastern Conference, it would have had to have been, if Hakeem gets him, it would have had to have been in the finals. But you gotta respect Hakeem. We're just still carried over from the last episode. It is what it is. You gotta respect Hakeem. You gotta think maybe Hakeem gets one of those if they match up there. And you gotta respect that Shaq and Penny combo as well too. Like that is still gonna be a fearsome, team at that year, regardless of whether or not Michael Jordan had, and I don't know if we do like the NBA ripple effects, if there's some record lottery type stuff that gets into effect with MJ missing a couple of years there. But again, the Bulls are still a good team in terms of the regular season stuff, and Scottie Pippen still hadn't been competitive. And it wasn't still until the year or two after, it wasn't again, that finals loss really turned that team. And unfortunately, some of the stuff with Shaq going to LA as well too, and Penny's injuries and stuff, it is what it is. But that season, they just would have been an incredible season. So as much as we were giving Hakeem respect, like we got to respect Shaq and Penny as well too. Maybe, and who knows? Again, maybe MJ locked in for that full year. It's just a different animal, and they did play in the playoffs. But yeah, you go 95 to 2005. Like that feels like a pretty big change. I don't know if that's that feels like the most change in a league. And again, it's not like maybe the change from, it's actually probably the change, the other way from maybe 05 to 15. Honestly, like I wasn't even, because I wasn't even thinking that was 10 years. I was like, oh yeah, that's got to be like 20 years of NBA history because of the way that just the 3-point game evolves from, because you think it would be more the way that talent in the league, I was thinking, shifted from 95 to 2005, where you still, of course, just have even we've talked about LeBron and Steph and Durant hanging around as star players for all these years, but even a guy like Al Horford, who is pushing into his 40s, and it's like, man, he's been the 4th most important guy on a great team for an incredible run here at the back half of his 30s, and just those type of guys hanging around the league. There is, of course, a weird dynamic of the veteran versus the rookies on some of the minimum scale stuff, but again, for more so the ability from a health and durability standpoint for you guys to hang around. But of course, 95 to 2005, still not quite the same there, and just some of the drafting talent sticking around as well too, a little bit different at that time. But you do have the next way, I mean, like, because that 96 draft is loaded, but then they don't really, like Kobe and Iverson with the 2000 finals, and Kobe is there as well too. But it really is that post MJ that all those guys start to emerge in a big way. So it probably in 65 to 75, I don't know if we can comment on that, because you think 75, 70, and I guess if we're just going on the 5-year spans as well too, if we're really going what is the biggest dramatic change in 10-year span of NBA history, then that's really that could get really specific. But because you would have a merger in there. So the 10-year span to include a merger, like that's a pretty seismic change for sure. I mean, expansion is pretty aggressive as well too, for sure. You love it. But a merger is a little bit, I think, and then the way that, adding the 3-point line, of course, is pretty crazy. But then, like we're saying, in the 2010s, actually teams using it. Ayo, pause. But the 75 to 85 is another, the talent can, really starts to jump up at the end of the 70s and then into the 80s. So I mean, there's still guys from the like even Magic 79, so he's still there a little bit in that 75 to 85 span for sure. But the overall major names in the 70s compared to the 80s, like it does feel like there was a pretty distinct era there as well too. And again, 79 is right at the end of that decade. But the 2000 and the 2000, it's got to be the 2005 to 2015. Even in that one, even wouldn't have the necessarily the overall shifting of the talent, because again, like Kobe moves into sort of his post Shaq years, and there's a couple of years there where his team's maybe not the best, but him, he's obviously a major impact. Then does get to those finals levels as well too, wins back to back, and LeBron, Wade, but like the whole '03 draft as well too. Like we're saying, like they just all are still hanging around being dominant. There's Duncan is even in from '05 to 15. He still wins 2 titles, is in 3 finals, and is still one of the more impactful guys. Again, you can't say he's the best player of the 2010s necessarily. He's a little bit of a different phase of his career, obviously at that point, but still, it's like okay, this guy from the 2000s is still up here impacting the playoffs, and Dirk and stuff as well too. But yeah, regardless, I mean, there again, the league has clearly from like the tiers of talent and who's impacting the league and who's next up and all that different stuff. Like it definitely has shifted, but it really does feel like this year, of course, was the first official year for it in that way. Or do we have to go back and like declare 2022, 2023 as well? But I don't know, for me mentally, and again, I don't know if it's just the LeBron timeline of it all, but it is tied to those star players, and then again, of course, becoming LeBron and Steph as he emerges here in the 20 teens and still into the 2020s. And yeah, the Warriors were only 44 wins, the Lakers were only 43. So wait, was this 22-23 when they played? Yeah, and the Lakers did make, so yeah, they did make the Western Conference Finals. And again, they lost 0-4 to the Nuggets. But anytime they played in the series, anytime they played in the playoffs, it was always, pretty close. So yeah, it was 6-point game, 5-point game, 11-point game, and then a 2-point game. So 3 single-digit losses to Denver. Again, even if they got the swept, it's not like they were so far off from being in the finals. And then they're in a finals rematch against Miami that year. So again, even as of 2022, 2023, Jokic and Giannis still like the MVP guys of the league in terms of the regular season and the numbers and all the different stuff. But, and you still have Davis as well too on that 2022, we can't count his. It's not like Davis and Steph, the Warriors probably win that series if they have Davis, to be honest. Again, Davis is right up there with LeBron in terms of impacting the league over these last couple of years when they're both on the court. But the idea of them, being in the, I think winning the finals, at least for me anyways, in that 2022-23 season. And I'm not doing just the retroactive thing. You can check the tapes, chat. Hey, yo, check the tapes. I think I remember being pretty, this is closer than people are giving them credit for. Like, you gotta, the scores of these games and stuff, like, it's possible that they could turn some of these into wins. It's just the greatness, of course, of what the Nuggets team was doing down the end of those games. And especially that Jokic-Murray combo, the two-man game that they had going there. But, again, they were just really, really close. So, that still, maybe you're carrying that hype a little bit into the last season, or into the next season after this, into that 23-24 season. But this, and again, with the Warriors sort of in Steph being out of the mix there for a little bit as well, too, at the end of the year. Like, it did feel like a little bit of a shift, totally in a new way for the league this year. And Shea as well too, taking over. Like we're saying, Jokic and Giannis have fully moved into like a top dog type status in the league, and it's just it's a different time now. But for them to still at this point, and Steph again is the one where he was just emerging as well. Like, this is, with all due respect, I mean, he's had the longevity for sure, but this is still that trajectory that you would expect for him emerging at that time and then being a superstar into nowadays. Versus, again, it's like, okay, LeBron again, 40 years old, obviously is pretty crazy. But yeah, and then again, this is just And the reason maybe I'm being hyperbolic about saying it's the best game between these two is because, again, his Steph's performance in this finals is just underrated, and maybe one of the most underrated superstar performances in a finals, because even ourselves, and it is what it is, that 2022 finals is just an amazing individual achievement, and he was so awesome in that you're not discrediting this performance by saying that could be his best one. And again, he does have technically the finals MVP for that, so again, his performance was even underrated in the moment, not getting that award necessarily. And shout out to Iggy, like his performance on LeBron playing defense, of course, was incredible. And for what just the effort, and for him making LeBron work, like it was definitely a thing. And again, it was to LeBron's credit that he was awesome, and it felt like he was still, even if it was kind of taking 100%, 99, 98% AO of LeBron to get the effort and get the stat line, it did still feel like, again, he was getting the stat line as well, which, of course, again, you go to 2018 and Iguodala's not quite on that same tier of defense, and then LeBron's just, in that game was just 50 points, just totally crazy. And maybe we go back and rewatch that one as well, too. Again, that series, mentally, it goes a little bit different in those last couple of games, and I'm sure his games were good after that as well, too. I don't know, like, was it, Iguodala, is that like a weird Steve Kerr thing? Like every time they go into a finals against LeBron, he's like, okay, well, let's not just start with Iguodala on him. We have to wait till we get into the series a little bit. But again, is it like, okay, the ability for those guys to be at the peak of the powers defensively, if it wasn't quite there and LeBron was still there offensively, he was just absolutely going berserk and was still, again, producing great numbers, and didn't have the supporting cast as well too, in the same way that he had in the upcoming years. So he was definitely required to do a little bit more offensively than maybe even he's not supposed to, but maybe than even more you want LeBron to supposedly be trying to do if you're trying to win a finals here. But this is incredible as well. And again, the LeBron stuff, it's just, I mean, I don't know if it's weird. I don't know if everything here on the Remington Pod is weird, but the way that, of course, the dialogue is about him making the runs and about the competitiveness of the conference year to year. I mean, you can definitely look at it again year to year and be like, okay, this year it's meh, it's kind of meh, but it's like, okay, he made the finals for like a decade in a row. Like even in times again where the league has not even been that great, and there's other eras where we would even rank the eras below the era that LeBron was in. Guys weren't making the finals, of course, a decade in a row. But the way that he was just individually dominating in these finals games as well, too, and again, with the level of team that he was playing against, it's just incredible to go back and watch. Like, there's really not, and that's what we're saying about him carrying the teams, there's not a guy that you can go back and watch do this in the finals in this type of way. And again, maybe we're just not, our knowledge of some of the stuff in the 60s is not necessarily there, but you just go back and all those teams are stacked. Like, it is what it is. The Celtics were stacked, even the Lakers teams, it's the dialogue, of course, nowadays, I think in the grand scape of the league, of course, the Celtics were really stacked. I mean, that's not to be debated, but it's not like those Lakers teams were lacking for talent that they were winning in the finals against every year. I mean, of course, shout out to Jerry West. I mean, he's a legend, and probably could, again, against those Celtics teams, you could definitely use a couple more legendary players to go up against them. But, for a while there, it's like, okay, they had West and Elgin, and I'm not going to know all the names, but between those two guys, it's like, okay, they're definitely, there's something to work with there. It's not just totally nothing. But, and, again, they get Wilt and Goodrich and stuff, and that's as kind of the Celtics are changing as well. It's a little bit more end of the 60s into the 70s. So then, I don't know if it's opened up pause for them to win a title, but still, that's when they get their win anyways. And West is on that team, right? So West does get a title. Elgin, I think, is unfortunately the one that retired right before they ended up winning. But again, they're just the individual way that you have to see a guy elevate. Again, the way that LeBron does perform in the finals as well too. But it's not. Again, it's not like James Harden was in the finals. And shout out. We're not sitting here like, oh, James Harden never made the finals. But again, or even Luka in the Mavs. Like, you go and you could rewatch, some Mavs some of those Luka Mavs highlights. I don't know. We'll do in the 10-year anniversary of that run, I guess. But that is, and again, he's really great, so you get to function the team like that because of his greatness. But his usage is also a little bit, again, a function of the offense. And that's where we're saying LeBron is definitely like that in these finals. But it's because of the roster around him. It's not just because LeBron stylistically is that high usage type player. So that is what I'm saying. We don't really have that type of individual, and that's, as we go back and watch the MJ stuff as well too, just his individual scoring. But again, he would have had the defensive teammates around him. Maybe offensively, he's carrying his team in equal levels, and again, the bucket making stuff of LeBron or of MJ. I mean, we're not going to doubt his abilities, but again, shout out. And it is what it is. LeBron wasn't winning these finals as well too. We're not giving him that extra credit for necessarily winning it. I don't know what that extra credit would look like, but I mean, it would probably be insane. Be like, how did he win these finals without Kyrie and Kevin Love and these guys? But again, to see two teams being at this, I mean, and just to the level of basketball that we were getting in general was really, really great for these games and for these series. I mean, that like game 7, of course, in 2016 is a little bit of an ugly game, but it's a great, of course, just all-time intensity game. And the stakes of that game are about as high stakes, I mean, as you're going to get in NBA history. Again, probably that, of course, goes to the intensity of it. Probably the biggest stakes that we've ever gotten in an NBA game. And even if the scoring and some of the stuff wasn't necessarily there down the stretch, again, there's still great entertainment value and iconic plays as well. So get the block and the final bucket, go ahead winner, whatever, by Kyrie, the 3-pointer there with less than a minute left. So still enough iconic highlight moments as well too in the rewatch type stuff. But you get about as high a level of basketball as we're getting. And again, you got to give the Cavs teammates that he did have, again, credit. Like, they're showing J.R. Smith here. What is he right now? 4 for 7? Like, I mean, he had moments where, he had moments as well, too, again, speaking of 2018. But, of course, again, he had moments where he was making threes. Iman Shumpert was making threes. But it's one of those just mind warp things. It's like, okay, if it's just kind of a little bit of, and not to, sit here and just, hey, LeBron night. But, it's a little having that gravity of that teammate and his ability to find the guys in the right spot as well, to his extra level of playmaking IQ is what separates him as a superstar and allows him, of course, to be the guy that can get you a bucket at any moment. But then all of your teammates are better as well, too, because LeBron, and I know we could get into the debate about, the stylistic stuff, but there's really, very few guys, of course, and that, elevates those few guys. But, LeBron's right there with all those guys for just they can play with absolutely anybody in NBA history, of course, not a hot take. But nice little behind-the-back pass by Iguodala to Mozgov. What was the Mozgov timeline? Wait, was he on, so does he go to the Cavs after this? And then he's on the wait, is Mozgov on the Cavs? And I'm just now looking at David Lee on the Warriors and just thought that was Mozgov, or was he on the Cavs? I don't know. We'll go back. I don't remember Mozgov being on the Warriors, but shout out to David Lee if I'm just confusing him with Mozgov. It is what it is. But David Lee, of course, kind of nice as well too, and kind of a fun guy to get a title. Was important to that team as well. Not necessarily, playoffs and all that different stuff, but was just a fun guy for that team, and that we believe Warriors stretched in those early Curry years, and was, a fan favorite type guy. So, I mean, it was kind of fun when the Spurs got him. It was like, ooh, David Lee, good passer for sure. We had success with Boris Diaw, so it was like, I don't know if we kind of replicate that role in the offense a little bit. But, and the move past Tristan Thompson, I mean, everything but the bucket. An iconic David Lee, he could be a top everything but the bucket type guy. But again, his passing was good enough that he could bail out into some playmaking situations and end up making the right play quite a bit. But, I mean, the strength of it, he's forcing LeBron again into kind of a fall away shot. He's not giving him the driving lane, staying in front, tough, making it tough on LeBron's dribble. but he's in his bag, and it's just that fall away doesn't even matter. He's like, okay, I'll take it. And to be honest, again, it's you. By the time he's into that look and getting up that shot, you're like, I guess it's a good look. It looks like he's wide open. He's at the free throw line. I'll take it. But little one-legged fall away. Iggy's swiping down as he brings it up, so he's not able to necessarily contest the shot. And there's another one at a shot clock buzzer. We were talking over that one, I guess. But one-legged, sort of, push off. We're not looking. The refs are blind, I guess, in this one. But get the little Iggy playing, again, good physical defense, and LeBron just with that little bit of fall away space is still able to get the shot. But Steph off the dribble has been cooking. Yeah, he's 10 points here as we're at 6 minutes into the second quarter, and 4 for 5. 3 for 4. 4 for 5 from the field. I guess I was going to say 4 for 5 from 3. But that would put him at, of course, 12 points. So shout out. And J.R. Smith, whatever the iconic, 18 moment is, was a fun guy to have on your team. Again, was he a little bit too valuable for the Cavs at times in this run? But I was, I'm pro J.R. Smith. He was, again, another guy where him and Melo in that New York team, like Melo, of course, I don't know. I would never be a guy to sit here and say, and there's that just, Steph off the dribble, that just dead eye Steph Curry. You can't cover him. He's going to shake you, and just get the shot off type shot making ability. And this is peak Steph, like baby face years as well too. So that's what's incredible about Steph as a superstar, which is, again, a lot of these guys, of course, enter the league as teenagers into the NBA, but Steph is one of the few guys to actually just go through adolescence as an as an NBA superstar. So we literally got to see him grow up in front of our eyes. It's just crazy to go back and look at it. He is literally looks like a child at some point. It is what it is. I don't know if we can sit here and judge, but are we gonna have a little step? I don't know. Start comparing us to Steph Curry, but the youthfulness. Chad, this is like the 0.5% thing that there's a similarity there. I guess we could get kind of like could get some similar tats and maybe power up our lookalike percentage. But I don't know. It'll be like a 30s type thing where I think we'll peak in our 30s, Chad. It's a hot take, but of course, the Steph Curry. Okay, now it's he looks like a respectable NBA superstar. He looks like a guy that, it is what it is. But now again, he looks, he looks full grown. It is. But even Clay, of course. Like, I don't know. Would Megan Thee Stallion? I don't know her timeline. Was she single in 2015? But would she have been in Clay's DMs in 2015? Because Clay has had a little transformation as well too. I don't know. I guess he is maybe a little bit thinner. I don't know if he's if that's a this off season thing, or I don't know what he was looking like in 2015. He's a little bit of a different haircut as well too now, but overall kind of similar. Draymond pretty similar. Draymond's just kind of got the gray thing going now as well too. So it literally copying LeBron in every way. He's like, okay, well if LeBron's gonna get gray hairs, here we go. But for the most part, kind of looks as grade Draymond. It kind of makes sense. But yeah, shout out to Clay. We had. I guess was Rihanna at this finals? I think Rihanna was she was definitely at the Durant finals, because that was iconic, of course, of Durant just making shots and talking smack to Rihanna. But I don't know if she was at the 2016 finals as well too. And she was at the Cavs games. I know she was at the Warriors home games for these matchups, but I think she was in Cleveland as well too. Committed LeBron fan Rihanna. Shout out. But I was thinking about that with LeBron as well too, which again with these matchups against the Warriors, but not even just against this team, and shout out again, of course, to the Oracle Arena. It's an iconic arena, and what the Warriors were able to accomplish in this stretch and how great the fan base was at this time. Again, it just makes this venue so iconic. But you could, I think, argue that this is the most iconic LeBron venue. Like, if you kind of just think about LeBron, and again, are we thinking, okay, well, what's the one LeBron play you think of? You're thinking of that 2016 finals block against Iguodala. So, I've always said it's weird that, like, the iconic LeBron jersey as well, like, he won the finals in that short sleeve, that alternate jersey that Cleveland had. But it was like a good luck jersey there for a while as well, too. They were like, okay, we're making a comeback. Like, we can't switch up our jerseys. It is what it is. I guess these are the ones. But, you kind of think of him in that moment. That's kind of definitely the peak LeBron moment. I mean, MJ has a couple of moments where you could argue, but I think the final shot Byron Russell thing kind of stands out. I think the Craig Elo one is way up there just in terms of an MJ image. I don't know if that's just us, but I do think picture MJ, I think that's way up there. I think, of course, the slam dunk thing is just that iconic sort of photo from the baseline view where it's kind of sideways and he's just flying through the air is, and not baseline, maybe kind of sideline. Of course, look it up a little bit, but that seems pretty iconic as well too. I mean, just there's a couple of course iconic sort of dunk contest pose photos from him, but I mean MJ of course was Chicago the entire time. And I mean, there was a couple of different Chicago uniforms. I mean, MJ, of course, he had a little bit of a. I mean, again, the fashion of the Bulls, I guess, changed slightly in his era, in his time there. But his look changed a little bit as well too. I mean, there's that like kind of '85 young MJ. If you have the 2K MJs, like there are, you're able to kind of distinct haircut version. Again, kind of short. However you want to mod out your different versions of the MJs. But there is still a similarity to kind of, again, whatever iconic moment that you get with MJ as you get with, again, being sort of attached to the franchise. But also, again, the Bulls were just the top team in a different type of way where, I mean, the Cavs were, right there with the Warriors in the regular season with all that stuff. But the Warriors were just, and I guess in terms of the standings, kind of. But the Warriors were a win total stuff, and they were just a little bit of a different monster in the regular season over these stretches as well too. So going into the finals, how many times did the Bulls have? How many times did they have a finals matchup that they played on the road? Because I know that one of the sneaky Michael Jordan stats is he never had a finals go to a game 7, which is actually a really good stat. And again, in 6, I guess, attempts, you would have assumed that there had been one series. A couple went 6, but still, regardless, he was able to get the knockout before the final round, which is like, okay, this guy won the belt, defended all these titles, and never made it to the 5th. Never went to the 5th round. A little Tyson-y with that type of dominance as well. Where it's not like he's not just winning the fight. It's like, okay, right away he's just dominating and immediately making it obvious. And I guess it doesn't say home or road on here for the different finals matchups, but again, you don't really think of MJ like playing in opponent arenas. Here, wait, let me look at that, because that MJ last shot. Hey, I'll pause. That iconic moment is on the Bulls home court, or is it on the Jazz home court? I don't remember, but it might be in Utah. But here, can we see? Oh, okay, it is in Utah. So shout out. But I guess the way the photo is framed, shout out. You just get the MJ Byron Russell part of it, and that really stands out, of course. But you don't necessarily think of MJ playing in iconic arenas. Again, he has the dunk contest moment in Chicago, so you really think of him in that venue. I mean, he's got the statue and all that stuff. But I do kind of think, and I think that would be the case with most players, is you would think about them, of course, on the team that they were associated with playing in that arena. I mean, I guess maybe Lakers Celtics could be at one where you could maybe pinpoint those matchups to either one of the arenas, be like, oh, I really think about that in the Forum, or oh, I really think about that in the Garden, or whatever. But again, I think you could make a case for it either way. But Knicks fans, you're gonna be, oh yeah, my guy is iconic for MSG. I mean, Knicks fans in the 70s, I guess in the 90s as well too. like Pat Ewing and stuff. But for LeBron, I mean, I think about him playing in that Oracle venue about as much as I think about him anywhere else. Like, I don't. Again, you don't think about him. It's not home for LeBron, but it's almost about the closest thing as you can get. He had a lot of, again, won that finals on that home court, had a lot of those major moments there. Just they played every year in the finals, so they were constantly in this arena as well. And then they moved after the kind of the rivalry had ended, because they had made all the money from the rivalry, of course. Mm-hmm. So I think of the Oracle Arena as, again, a quote-unquote home court for LeBron, just about as much as anybody, or just about as much as any place that he's played in. And, of course, Miami is, I mean, again, I guess L.A., he's had about as long of a run, pause, in L.A. as he's had anywhere else. But, again, it goes to that bubble title, and that's the weird thing about that bubble title is he didn't win that bubble title in the Lakers' home court. It's not a discredit to the title in any way at all. Like, it's a great title. It may be a different, unique title, and it may be somehow, like, weirdly perfectly set up for LeBron to have won at that time in his career. But regardless, it had its own set of unique obstacles, and they were still able to overcome them. And, yeah, okay, there we go. Mozgov is on the Cavs. Shout out. But IT can confirm. But, yeah, it was still set up in a unique way, and he was still able to overcome whatever obstacles there were there and win it. So I don't know if it's the second most difficult title in NBA history, but it's still a legit title, regardless of, again, how different it is. But in sort of the where do you picture LeBron when you picture him playing, I don't picture him like in the bubble venue or necessarily winning a title in LA or having iconic playoff moments in LA. Like, I guess it is what it is. And we're not saying, there's a lack of iconic playoff moments in LA. Again, he's just in a different part of his career. Team's a little bit different. They were competitive as well too. And again, some of it on the road against Denver. Shorter series, unfortunately, against Denver. So not able to, have the math of them going back home a couple more times. But again, it was still close. But Oracle is right up there for a home court for LeBron. And I do think, again, because LeBron and Steph are cordial in that type of way, that I wonder if the Warriors fans are cordial with LeBron in that type of way as well too. And there is like a kind of a love-hate relationship with them there, because the Spurs, like, we kind of had, of course, a mini version of the rivalry with LeBron. I mean, we played LeBron in the 2007 finals when he was in Cleveland, but then when he goes to Miami, of course, we have that back-to-back run in 13 and in 12 and 13 in those two seasons. But I wouldn't say that, and I love LeBron as, again, as everybody, like, who doesn't love LeBron as a player? He's an all-time great player. He's, at this point, just played long enough to be beloved by everybody. But I wouldn't say that I still, like, go back and have fond memories of the finals that we played against. And again, that could go to the Warriors winning, 3 of the 4 finals or whatever, just being, having the better. And even though that 2016 one really didn't go their way, like they did, of course, end up on the rivalry on the way up side of things. But, and I guess, wait, they played 3 years, but then the Warriors did lose to the Raptors. So, we're mixing kind of the Warriors finals with the Warriors Cavs finals in there as well, or with the Warriors Raptors finals in there as well. But again, I wonder if there would be some of those, like, fond memories of competing against LeBron in that type of way back in the day, or again, just a rival in a matchup, because again, like the Lakers versus the Celtics, I don't think there's like fun. Like, it's like, okay, again, it was great competitive basketball, like great legendary players, both teams at the top of their games. So I'm sure, anytime you'd be like, fans would be like, take me back to those days. Like, it'd be awesome. And again, you'd relive, Magic Johnson and Kevin McHale and, whoever else, Robert Parrish, I guess. But I know Larry Bird as well too, obviously. But just to name some other guys, but just to relive those legends. I mean, obviously, who wouldn't love to do that? But the fondness of the competitiveness, I hopefully that makes sense. But I think you understand kind of what I'm saying, because I'm trying to maybe it's just me as a fan as well too. I'm just wondering if this exists in fandom. I'm trying to think if there's a team that I have like kind of a oh yeah, they were like that matchup was competitive and brutal in the moment, but yeah, good times after all. Like I guess I don't really have one, so maybe it just doesn't exist. But I don't know, because I would like even if there was just one moment and it's like okay, this the two franchises are obviously in a different spot. Like shout out to the Grizzlies. It's just like okay, the Spurs are clearly have had a better 20-year run than the Grizzlies have had, but the one playoffs was like 2010 or 2011 when the Grizzlies got him in the first round and it was an upset. Like I can't. I'll never forgive him, chap. It is what it is. The Grizzlies are on the list now, so I imagine even a couple finals games might be a little bit painful. But like I'm saying, it just the LeBron is so iconic in this venue that maybe that makes it more painful for Warriors fans, honestly, if I'm thinking about it. But 20 points in the first half. So is this a perfect 20 for 20 type game? He has I think 40 points to end it. So just again, that first half, second half, LeBron the entire game is incredible. I mean, I love Steph's right there as well too. He was one shot away from 40 points. Barbosa, I mean, and again, speaking of supporting cast, like this really is one of the best NBA that guy casts that they've had or that we've had recently as well too. And I don't know if this is something that necessarily can't happen anymore because it was like okay, what's possible with building a team with the second apron? Like you almost think the guys like Barbosa and Livingston and David Lee, I guess, in this series, but even Bogut as well too as like a fun bench guy could give you some good minutes. Like those, not necessarily main guys that are going to be on the court at the end of the game or in the mix for that, but the guys that are going to have to, of course, get you minutes throughout the course of the game, through the season and through the series. Those guys can. I feel like they've just been a little bit different over the last couple of years, and maybe that was a credit to the Warriors to have this kind of depth in their lineup as well too, to be like, hey, we have a couple of extra veterans to put out there. And maybe again it speaks to the talent that we have in the league as well too, even 10 years later, that just the teams that are winning it feels like the 5 and 6 are a little bit more stacked as well. But it doesn't feel like, and again, shout out, hey, we're not trying to disrespect like Lou Dort here, but Lou Dort just doesn't have the same charm as Barbosa. Maybe it's like a generational thing, or like Sean Livingston. It is, or like Derek White. Derek White isn't a little bit. I guess Lou Dort is in that territory as well too. See, those guys, it's maybe just a different thing. It feels like they're a little bit better though. Again, like Lou Dort could almost be, or Derek White could almost be like the third best player in a game at a given time. Where it feels like Barbosa could feel like that, but it's like, okay, he's probably never actually going to be the third best player through the course of the game. Harrison Barnes with the posterized putback dunk on LeBron. Hey, yo. I don't think he was intending. He didn't necessarily see LeBron. Whoa, the flex. Hey, yo. Tatum a couple years later. Harrison Barnes. We just need a highlight reel of guys flexing, pause on LeBron when after the dunk on him. So 50-50 with 3 seconds left in the second half. So, yeah, again, this was a very competitive game for basically the entire game. And then much like the Warriors did, they were definitely, you think of them closing games really spectacularly, of course, when they had Durant. And then Durant has a couple of iconic moments where, was it like game 3s of those back-to-back finals? He hit kind of the same closing shot going down the court in transition in, again, like kind of the same scenario in 2 seasons in a row. So you think of their ability to, again, not just close a game, but the foot on the gas where it's like, oh, now all of a sudden they're up by 15 at the end of the game when this game was just like 3 points the entire game. But they still had that ability, again, even without Durant. So I know this in the 16 thing is a really defining thing as well. But they were able to overcome that legacy. And the other, to go back to the Super Bowls that I was talking about, thinking about rewatching, and ended up choosing this game instead. But I was thinking about going back and rewatching that Rams Titans Super Bowl because we're on the 25th anniversary of that this year, the 2000 Super Bowl, because that Rams team is a really interesting legacy team with the way it's impacted by what happened the next year with the New England Patriots. and them losing, not just losing to the Patriots, but them losing in an upset fashion, I think, to the Patriots. And again, we look back at what the Patriots and Brady became. But in the moment, I think the way they lost and then kind of how it's, and then again, with what the Patriots dynasty happened, emerging out of that, like, it's just a weird ripple effect, legacy type thing for that team. And this team, I don't want to say was totally at risk of that. You know, we're not Isaiah Thomas here being like Durant saved their legacies. But because, you know, again, they just won 73 games as well, too. So you imagine that they're going to be right back as a competitive team. You know, making a third finals in a row again with that type of core, it's a brutal run. I mean, I'm not necessarily locking them back in for the third finals the same. Again, shout out to again, like LeBron, AO. But, you know, the Eastern Conference thing was a little bit different, but still, I would imagine that core would have been in a great spot, of course, obviously, to go back and make a third finals push after, you know, even if Durant doesn't go there. Of course, Durant, I guess, in Oklahoma City becomes the one competition that they really have. And I'd have to look at what that team would have been like with the role guys as well, too. You imagine it would have been competitive, but it did feel... And that would be an interesting series to go back and rewatch. Maybe that'll be a next summer type thing. But that Warriors versus Thunder series, because it did feel a little bit magical in a way that the Thunder were up on them 3-1. Like, it was like, okay, you know, Durant and Westbrook are an iconic duo, and like, this is some all-time basketball for sure. Like, these guys are great, and you can't count them out against any team. You know, again, in kind of the same way you would LeBron and Kyrie against this Warriors team. But it wasn't the same type of series where you're like, oh, is this, you know, totally upset? Again, I might be misremembering it, but it was not like, okay, the Warriors, if they had lost that series in 5 or 6, wouldn't have been like, you know, oh, are they not going to be in the finals the next year? Like, they still would have been, you know, the over-unders would have been amazing, and the regular season stuff would have been all that great. And I still probably would have been like, you know, the three-point shooting, it's good enough. It's probably going to be winning against the Thunder in the next year, and they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. They're going to be getting revenge. But the rest of the league, of course, just matched up against them. And the Rockets team was close, you know, even with Durant as well, too. But the rest of the league just couldn't quite match up with them at this time as well. So, you know, again, they would have been in a pretty good spot to not necessarily have that sort of Rams effect with that 2016 thing. But, again, it does kind of... This one does get ranked down a little bit with the other series that they did win. Of course. And that 2016 finals is an awesome finals to, again, just go back and watch. And you do have Kyrie in that final. So and he has, I mean, amazing performances. So not only are you getting just another, you know, high-level basketball player putting up great stats, but it's Kyrie Irving, who's one of just the most entertaining basketball players of all time. So the entertainment value of that 2016 finals, of course, like we're saying, is definitely there. But it is, I mean, this is right on par with it. Again, even without the individual talent of some of the other guys. So Steph, starts the second half immediately with a little bit of a mid-range jumper to put the Warriors up by 3. So should we take a quick break? And then we've got to figure out, chat, who can be possibly an Eastern Conference All-Star in 2025, because make no mistake, the field could be wide open. It could be not. I don't know. It's not like I have the list and saying, here's the list. This is it, chat. We're going to figure out what the list could be. So stay tuned. Coming up next, well, I guess trade corner. Who could be traded and also make an Eastern Conference All-Star? Oh, chat. The possibilities are endless. You'll just have to stay tuned and see what happens. Okay, chat, we are back. The second half of our Cavs-Warriors Game 5 NBA Finals rewatch is underway. And we are going to, like I said, try to figure out what the possibilities are for the Eastern Conference All-Star team in 2025. It is what it is. But we should start, I think, with trying to figure out who made it last year, because the two obvious names that are now off of the list. And unfortunately, you know, a moment of silence, chat. Respect to the Pacers fans and the Celtics fans and Tatum and Halliburton's families in the chat. But they just unfortunately will not be an All-Star game contention for 2025. It is what it is. But also there's turnover as well, too. There's going to be new rising stars, new additions. 211 to 186. Jeez. The East better than the West, chat? Hey, yo. Way more competitive than the West. I mean, Dame is traded as well, too, so we know he's going to be gone. So that's three guys. You know, he's in the West now, and I guess also RIP. You know, Dame's season next year, he will not be there. So that's three guys that will not be on the All-Star team in 2026 for the Eastern Conference. And that is just who played in the game as well, too. Let's see. Do we have, like, full injury replacement type situations here? All-Star game rosters. Yeah, Giannis didn't even play in the game with the injury, but he got selected, and that means, you know, he's playing in the season as well, too, with the other guys. But Trae Young was the guy that replaced him. Kyrie Irving replaced Anthony Davis. LeBron didn't have a replacement, and Anthony Edwards didn't have a replacement as well, too. And this is mixed in there with the draft. So not necessarily listed by conference. But you have Giannis, of course. You've got Mitchell on Team Chuck. Team Chuck just, I guess, leaning in with the Eastern Conference All-Stars. Siakam and Towns and Trae Young. So Trae Young now is like kind of one of the established guys in the Eastern Conference. If we're looking at who's made playoff runs, who's made a couple of All-Stars, who's put up some stats, you know, who's left? Hey, yo, like Trae Young's top 5 guy in the Eastern Conference now? What's happening, chat? Of course, shout out our guy Brunson as well. And again, that's the established thing. It's the younger push of guys could be the one that could be the group that potentially fills that void, AO, left by some of those. And even though, of course, like we're saying, it's not like Halliburton and Tatum, of course, veteran superstars. You know, they're, of course, rising stars entering the peak of their powers. But even the generation behind them still, it's like maybe there's a turn that they would have to wait. But the league is so stacked now that it's like, okay, there's going to be a couple of guys that can sort of slide in and fill that void. AO, again, in a little, it's still in a good way, even with those injuries there. So yeah, even without Tatum and Halliburton, you've got, like I said, Giannis, Mitchell, Siakam, Towns, Trae Young, Evan Mobley, Jalen Brunson, Cade, Darius Garland, Hero, and Jaylen Brown as Eastern Conference All-Stars from last year. And with the health so far going into next year, they didn't get hurt in last year's playoffs, at least, you know, fully for next year. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 All-Stars from last year. And again, as much as we could debate trade value, team type stuff. Oh, Dellavedova for 3. Shout out. There is, like, Trae Young, again, is a guy, like, I kind of think Trae Young might have a good year next year, and the Hawks could be a good, interesting regular season team in the Eastern Conference. And, you know, I don't want to call him a lock to be an All-Star, but again, I'm not necessarily against putting him way up higher on the list and being comfortable with him remaking that team. Siakam without Halliburton is going to be interesting because the opportunity, of course, will be there. Will he be able to put up the numbers in the same way? But he was able to still, of course, be an All-Star in the East without, you know, Halliburton on the Raptors, and was still able to, again, have good teams with a little bit of a, you know, they didn't have Kawhi there for a couple of years. They, like him and Anunoby and stuff. I mean, it still was a good core of guys, but it's not like he had a second necessarily superstar, you know, the way Halliburton, you know, and that's like a second superstar. You know, shout out to Pascal Siakam, but it didn't necessarily have that second other person on the team to help elevate as well too. And we didn't even look up Iggy's stat line for this game, but he's at a 5 point, 7 assist, 7 rebound game with 9 minutes left in the third quarter. So, again, as much as we would love to go back and just time it, Back to the Future, I guess change a lot of things. The 7,000th thing on the list to change would be Steph Curry getting the Finals MVP in all-time history. But again, if we check enough things off the list and we can go back and retroactively assuming we check all the things off the list and we can go back and change Steph Curry's MVP, we would definitely do that. But we don't want to disrespect Iguodala as well too. Could Iguodala be an all-star in the Eastern Conference this upcoming season, I guess, is the question. So, and I guess, do they only do 12 all-stars as well too? So it's not like the all NBA with the 15. If they had a 15-person thing, that would be interesting. I mean, you could potentially make a case that expanding the all-star roster to 15 would not necessarily be the worst move in the world. I guess you're adding 6 guys to the roster, so it is pretty good because you're adding both teams as well. But if you went, you could just, hey, hot take, just start with 13. Be like, okay, the next, you were going to add one all-star spot every 3 years. I don't know if you can work that into the CBA. But, and then in the 2030s, we're at 15 all-star spots. It could, it could be interesting. But Mobley and Mitchell will be an interesting one because the Cavs feel like, again, a team where the Eastern Conference is set for them to have a pretty dominant run again. But there is a whiff of what if this goes bad in Cleveland this year. I don't want to necessarily say that in July, but there is a whiff. So I'm not saying that that's going to knock Mitchell and Mobley out of the All-Star. And again, it's just like it's like a 0.5%. Oh, just, I don't even know if it is. It's like, was that a whiff? It's like, I thought it was I thought it was something. Like maybe. But again, with what the East looks like, Mitchell would be another one who, like Trae Young, is got some regular season establishedness with his game as well too. And same with Jaylen Brown. The Celtics could be I think the Celtics will be a fun regular season team next year, and Jaylen Brown could be hot take back in All NBA. Hey he's been an All NBA for the Finals MVP from 2 years ago. Might be an All NBA conversation. I think he could. Jaylen Brown, like a 30 a game. Like, what can we bet on in July? Like, he could be a sneaky 30 a game guy next year. I don't know. Because the Celtics could definitely still, Missoula, there's going to be a team type thing that's still going to be, you hope. I know, teamwork is not necessarily the thing that stood out always with them there. But when it was really, of course, working well and they would lean into that type of stuff, I mean, they were definitely really good at it. And it's not necessarily totally crazy to still think that could still be a focus of the offense with Derek White and, again, all these sort of playmakers and them kind of, it kind of hopping around. And then, Jaylen Brown's still going to have his ISO thing going on. So, like we're saying, he can still get the usage to get up there. But maybe it does get taken away just a little bit. And maybe the best version of the team is not him getting 30 as well, too, is maybe the point. But still, maybe if he could be in that 28, because I guess he was, 24 a game? I want to say he was like 27 a game, but he might have been... Okay, yeah, he was almost 27 a game. 26.6 in 2020. He's second team All-NBA. So I guess it has been 2 seasons that he hasn't been All-NBA, but again, he won Finals MVP in 23-24, so, which one would you rather have? Especially after already making All-NBA, locking that paycheck in. It's like, okay, now we can go ahead and get that Finals MVP and secure that legacy type stuff. And his numbers, while, again, his scoring was lower, his numbers were better in 23-24. You look at his efficiency, just up slightly. The 3-point and field goal was up a little bit higher. I was going to say his 2-point was down a little bit, but I guess his 3-point being up a little bit would affect his overall, of course, enough to raise it up a little bit. And then a little bit of a step back this year, especially from 3. But you imagine, so I guess he's been kind of between 35 and 33% over the last couple of seasons. So he's due for the bounce back 3-point year this year. So again, I would kind of lock him down until go ahead and just lock in Jaylen Brown as an all-star for 2024. I mean, again, you imagine Brunson, you imagine Cade as well too. Could be interesting. And I guess for the Cavs as well, they did get 3 all-stars last year. So it is definitely set for them. And again, with the talent of all those guys, there is whoa, we got a Don Johnson shout out in the NBA Finals. Shout out 2015. What did we just watch with Don Johnson? That is really good. Oh, Rebel Ridge. Shout out. He's really good in Rebel Ridge. When I just there's like, when the action movie does something really great when you're just replaying the scene over and over in your head. Like the scene from Wind River where the guy is where they're going to the trailer and the one cop, spoiler alert, I guess if you haven't seen Wind River, but they're going to a trailer at one point and one of the cop like calls out a flanking maneuver that he kind of like sneaky sees one of the crews that they're questioning start to get into. He's like, hey, why are you kind of circling us like this? And it's just one of those action movie things that you're like, oh, I've never seen a guy like kind of notice it in that type of way in an action movie, and it's just awesome. And and I guess the Rebel Ridge one that I'm thinking of is when Don Johnson pulls the gun on Aaron Pierre. Again, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Rebel Ridge, but this is earlier on in the movie as well too. So, and I guess the movie, there's a point to the movie, so it's not a spoiler that Don Johnson's gonna be pulling a gun on Aaron Pierre in that movie. But when he pulls the gun and then Pierre just grabs it and keeps him from firing. And a lot of guys have done the so I guess what was that hand motion? But a lot of guys have done the disarm the gun and sort of take it apart, the pieces, and they're like, the mag drops out and they'll do whatever thing to the top. And like, oh, now he can't shoot the gun. But the quickness of where he is stopping the gun in the draw from Don Johnson is really unique. And then just him, I guess, they mentioned, close quarters combat experts. So you kind of think about like, MMA stuff and, obviously like that, just really hand-to-hand fighting. But his ability to keep everything in close quarters in that movie is great, and that's a great scene in that as well too. But it's not necessarily even a great, I guess Don Johnson scene, but it's a great scene and Don Johnson's in it, so shout out. But Don Johnson run on Tubi, where just be searching Don Johnson's name, see what movies pop up. Don Johnson, could he be an Eastern Conference All-Star next year? So the Garland-Mitchell debate would be an interesting one. Are both of them locked into the All-Star game next year? We should see. And we didn't even, we're talking about Tatum and Halliburton getting injured. Like, we didn't have Paolo last year really for a lot of that as well too. And, again, he was able to be back for the later half of the season. But if we're just talking about the initial push and getting that recognition, he wasn't necessarily in that conversation as well. So you're going to get him in the mix. You imagine him being in the mix as well too, and Bane and that team just being better. Like Franz should be in the All-Star mix next year. Like that's one where, and again, this is where the spots become difficult and where I just was kind of wanting to think this out a little bit, because as much as, again, those are two dominant teams, like those are two Eastern Conference Finals level teams that are going to be greatly affected, in the Cavs and the Pacers not necessarily being there. Like there might be sort of a replenishing thing that happens where, and I guess it is of course projecting as well too, but you imagine again the Magic are going to be better this year with adding talent and being healthier and just being a year into more of the development as well too, and those guys just getting that experience. But like we're saying, we have that Piston stock, and we imagine Cade's going to continue to emerge as a star, and Jaden, we're just jinxing the Pistons, so nothing's gonna happen with them. Make no mistake, it is what it is. If they have a bad season or a mid-season, it's our fault. Just lock that in right now. If there's a lock, we've jinxed the Pistons, unfortunately. But we imagine Cade is gonna continue to take step forwards. They get Ivy back, like Ivy would be another one, and those two teams specifically, and really of course whoever, and Atlanta, like. We imagine them getting Jalen Johnson back healthy is really going to impact that team. And in the regular season, again, Trae Young's an impactful regular season guy for sure. And I think he's going to be impactful next year. So the potential for any of those teams to be at the top of the conference, like they could be in the conversation to have, multiple All-Stars themselves, where, again, they're kind of replenishing that stuff that those teams lost. And again, I don't think the Pacers, I think, are a little bit more at risk, of course, but the Celtics, I think, are going to be a potential, there's a potential where they might, and again, we're just saying that they're going to be, again, a top team. Maybe there's more depth as well, too. Like we're saying, we're just naming all these teams, and at some point, okay, maybe they're the 7th or 8th team, but still, they're right on that edge of maybe not a play-in team. Maybe they could grab that 5th or 6th spot in the Eastern Conference. I wouldn't be totally shocked. I don't expect them to, again, win the Eastern Conference and be in the finals. But I don't expect them to be a bad team next year. Again, I'm not saying just because Tatum got hurt, but also it's still a team of pretty good guys. And as long as you have an All NBA guy on the roster, there is some level of success that like you probably should be having as well too. But again, the Eastern Conference is going to have teams that are better as well. So those teams can kind of just flip those spots in a way. And, again, a lot of us kind of thought the Magic would be the team that would be taking a step forward last year. And some of the injury stuff definitely threw that off in a way. So for them to be on that timeline would still make sense. But for them to be like, okay, now we're the stacked team in the East and the Celtics have to be the 5 team that's like, oh, injuries have derailed them. Again, that just still kind of keeps us in the same place. So the Celtics are definitely, again, more proven, and those guys are established as champions and as the All-NBA type stuff. But again, the potential is right there. And like I'm saying, Jalen Johnson and Trae Young both could definitely be in the All-Star conversation next year. I mean, the Heat could be one of those teams there, like, Heat culture, and they could be, again, maybe they're the 8th seed, and maybe Tyler Hero's like 24 a game, and the efficiency is pretty solid, and it's like, okay, he'll be on the All-Star team again. He's got some pedigree as well, too. But that could be another team success, kind of takes his name a little bit out of the conversation. Again, we didn't have Bam in the All-Star game last year. We just had Hero. Is Bam not on the list? Let me double check here. Yeah, no shout out, no Bam Adebayo. So, again, name value wise, he could definitely be back in the mix as well too. But would you be totally shocked if Ricochet, I guess maybe next year would be a little bit rich, because that would be that would be what, his second season? Am I crazy? He just has the one season for our guy, him and Sar. So wait a second. Ricochet, yeah. So it would a second season, maybe a third season All-Star for Ricochet. Honestly, wouldn't count it out. If he was 19 a game and again like 39% from 3 and maybe 50% for the field, but the defense and there's just the rebounding, and you can see the full scope of the impact there, and the Hawks are just a really good regular season team. Like that's a 3 All-Star team candidate again for sure. I think the Pistons, like we're saying, Cade and Ivy definitely on, like Cade, he's more on the put him on more closer to the lock list, you would hope, but Ivy's definitely on the watch list. I don't know if you can rule out Asar as well. And again, we're not saying that Asar and Ricochet and Desmond Bane and Franz Wagner are all going to be on the Eastern Conference All-Star team next year. It's just, if one of those teams emerges, you could see the 3-man, 2-man duo trio combination being rewarded in that type of way. And if it had to be a trio from the Pistons, I wouldn't necessarily be shocked if Asar Thompson, again, second year All-Star, or I guess third year All-Star for both, because twins, shout out. But third year All-Star for Asar, maybe again next, maybe 2 years. Maybe Asar is like a 2 or 3, or again All-Star Ayo. But stuff can happen quick. Pause in the season. You can really see a player really take a lot of strides, and defensively can really, I think, especially, I don't know, I'm saying especially now, but I think there's an awareness to it where if you're good enough on that end, I don't know if you can quite get it in an All-Star game, but if the team's good enough and you're impactful enough offensively, like I think there's definitely a pretty strong case. Like I would definitely say that, even though I don't know, like you could make the case, of course, that I would rather have Asar in a team building scenario, but I do think I would put Ricochet more likely to make an All-Star game next year, more likely sooner. Like I would bet him sooner to make an All-Star game. And again, that would be sort of, at the end of the day, maybe I'm thinking they're both kind of the third guy on the team, and just who would I rather have at the upside, sort of whatever Asar could bring as a third best player. Just would rather take the chance on that, who knows. But again, I think Ricochet's skill set and what the Hawks could be success-wise could put him on a watch list. Pause. Ayo, for All-Star game potential as well too. I don't know if anybody else in the Bucks besides Giannis, unfortunately, is going to be in the mix, which again is crazy about Milwaukee, that they might not have a single guy. I guess, does Turner have to be on the All-Star game watch list next year? If he kind of does, if we're saying that Ricochet is and Miles Turner isn't, I guess I did kind of recalibrate from the offseason. That Miles Turner is on Milwaukee. Shout out. But he's another one. I don't know if in Indiana, even with Halliburton, of course, but without Halliburton and some extra potential opportunity for him, I don't know if he has all-star potential in Indiana. But next to Giannis, Miles Turner, it could be there. Who knows? If he's, again, in that 18 to 20 point a game range, double-double, like 18 and 12 for Miles Turner, again, stepping out and making some threes, you could definitely see him getting rewarded. I don't know if Kevin Porter Jr., I don't know, you don't see us getting a trio from the Bucks. Kevin Porter Jr. in the All-Star game he's the last guy. He's not even on the potential, and watch list. Be adults, chat. Hey, yo. But, he's not even on the watch list. Or do we just say the list? I don't even know what the potential way to say it. I guess we've said watch list too many points. At this point, if we say the list, it's kind of, we're thinking the watch list. But, so I guess it is what it is. It's the watch list. But, he might not be on the watch list, but he's like a name that we wrote down on a note and just like put it in the drawer and was like, okay. We're going to unofficially mention it. But, when I was looking up guys that were all-stars as well, too, like, and speaking of Atlanta, like Porzingis, of course, has been an all-star. Like, could Porzingis be an all-star next year if Atlanta's really good? I think that would be, obviously, best-case scenario for Atlanta. I don't know. Is best-case scenario for Atlanta Richer is their third-best player or Porzingis is their third-best player? I think contract-wise and, investment-wise, Richer is the number one overall pick. His emergence would be the most valued thing. But from a team success standpoint next year, if, again, in a complimentary way too, if Porzingis is in that upper tier of the team because he's awesome, then I don't see that necessarily being, again, bad for the Hawks' regular season success. And that means that that's probably a pick-and-roll thing with Trae Young and him that's really working as well too. And then you imagine his spacing is going to be good for a guy like Jalen Johnson. Vooch has been in an all-star game. So Vooch might be I don't know, Chicago might be too bad next year, so that'd be another one where Vooch could be putting up some stats and it's like, it doesn't even matter. Bulls have like 6 wins going into All-Star weekend. But he has been an All-Star, and Brandon Ingram as well too. I don't know if I said his name, but to say it further, Brandon Ingram has been an All-Star. So again, the Raptors are a sneaky one. They could be they're a little bit more of definitely a sleeper to be a good team, but if they were the 9th team in the, again, all-star kind of range, I don't know if the 9th team in the East around the all-star, is getting an all-star. But, again, if they're fighting for that last playoff spot, but in the play-in mix, like, it's still got enough talent on that team. You could see them being good enough, for sure. And if Brandon Ingram's putting up some stats, like, again, you would think maybe Scotty Barnes would be the guy that would get the all-star nod first. But since Ingram has the pedigree and maybe the better shot-making capability, like, I wouldn't put him off the table as well too. Like, hot take, I don't know, maybe not. Who do you think guy's more likely to make an all-star team next year, Brandon Ingram or Kevin Porter Jr.? Hey, yo, because it would definitely be, again, Kevin Porter Jr. with the opportunity and the fact that he's playing with Giannis, and that team's just gonna be good. But Brandon Ingram would be the best player on the team potentially, could put up some better stats, and maybe not quite the team success, but maybe enough team success to make it work. And otherwise, you're looking at, because, LaMelo as well, too. Oh, and I'm leaving out the Sixers. Embiid and Paul George. Hey, yo, because Embiid and Paul George have been, at this point, and I guess they would still have more all-stars than a guy like Tatum, even though Tatum was some of the all-NBA stuff. I think Tatum's been on first-team all-NBA more than Paul George at this point, so he's kind of passed him in pedigree in that way. And maybe the all-star thing is close enough, but it's 7 for Paul George. I don't think Tatum's been in 7 all-star games at this point. But just because of, he hasn't been in the league, he's only in like his 8th season. But so maybe he has been at this point, close. Again, he'll get there. It's close enough. But those would be the next most established guys in the East behind Giannis. And then you're looking at Mitchell, and then you're looking at Trae Young at that point as well too. So like I was saying in the play, I think there will be like, and Paolo could emerge when we're looking at next season and be like, oh, Paolo's the second best guy in the Eastern Conference. But I think you could have made a case for Tatum as the 3rd best player in the league, 4th best player in the league with whatever you're going to put Shea right now after just winning the title. But again, Tatum also won a title and a little bit more established than Shea, just again, a time thing at this point. But a little bit more of a complete game when he's at the peak of his powers right now as well too. Again, he's just been in the league a couple more years in a little bit more time to figure it out. And it's a credit to Shea that he figured it out and won the title in this situation with his scoring at this point in his career as well too. But you can make that case for, again, Tatum, third best guy, so he's going to be arguably the best guy in the Eastern Conference next year. So like I'm saying, there are guys to potentially fill that void, but it is still, Tatum is still obviously a great name, along with Halliburton as well too. Halliburton's right. We're not disrespecting Halliburton enough. He's in the top 10, for those guys. We'll say it blindly, just put respect on his name for what he's been able to accomplish. But it'll still be I think, hot take, a competitive year in the East with those teams getting better in that type of way. And honestly, if you're going to say, the bottom of the conferences pause, like maybe there's an argument there, but you could honestly, some of the bottom teams, again, in the East are a little bit younger and set up in a different way than some of the teams might be in the West. Like, we love the Clippers for, I guess, having a lot of veteran guys next year, but are they guaranteed to be a great regular season team? The Kings aren't necessarily a team full of younger players. I guess the Grizzlies, Phoenix as well too. New Orleans and Utah are not necessarily probably going to be locks to be great teams again next year. And I don't know if you're necessarily comparing situations and going, okay, Utah versus, I guess, Utah versus Washington. If we're just looking at the list here, Charlotte versus New Orleans. But it is, I think, a closer situation than maybe we were giving it credit for going into, emerging out of the offseason after the finals last year. And again, devastating injuries for sure. You don't want to lose those superstars, but you can't underestimate like we're saying, the talent that is on the rise as well too, to potentially step in and be the next dominant team and be in a way as competitive, like we're saying, as those teams in the past, in the past, but just this past season in the greater landscape of the league. And again, the Pacers, it was more of a playoff competitiveness that they were bringing as well too. They weren't necessarily obviously a dominant regular season team. Like you could see the Pistons, they could have hot take more regular season wins than the Pacers did last year. I think the Pacers won 40 some games, so they could be a 50-win team. Again, it's not a lock, but they still definitely could be. I guess we're looking at it right now. Where were the Pacers at here? Oh no, they were right at 50. Hey, shout out. So I guess Detroit would be. We're saying Detroit is the Pacers, and Orlando is Boston. See, Boston is at 61, so I don't know if Orlando's going to get to 60 wins next year. Hot take. Maybe they're more 54, 55 reasonably, but if they get to 58, they're really cooking, obviously, for next year. But I'm not even so far off to say that you wouldn't necessarily be... I'm not saying East over the West at this point, because you still have... Again, you've got Shea, Jokic, Anthony Edwards, and Luka all in the West. But between... And it's the projectable talent at this point. Again, there is still some establishedness with those guys, even between Luka and Edwards at this point, who are younger in their careers, but have been to conference finals and finals runs themselves, more so compared to what the East has had at this point. But like I'm saying, I'm not necessarily saying that the talent that they have on the other side couldn't match up with some of those guys as well too. I don't know if you go down to Jalen Johnson versus Devin Booker, it still feels like it's kind of competitive. And I don't know if that's an even version of the matchup here. But I think we got to put some respect on the East. I don't know, again, how it's going to bear out in the win totals and what it's all going to look like. And I don't know if I'm saying, the NBA champion is an Eastern Conference team next year. So I don't know what the real way to, again, is there a way to be right? But I just think the vibe of it is going to be good next year. And it's going to be really fun. I think maybe that's what it is. Am I going to it's more fun in the East? Some of these teams are just, for some reason, just gravitating to some of the talent on some of these teams, just some more fun names. But there's going to be some, and maybe I'm just talking myself into it because the East is going to be that early slate on League Pass, of course, and you're just like, okay, well, you could be locking into these games always. But, yeah, I think we're going to be putting more respect on their names. So let's see. I think some of the win total stuff did just drop. So I don't know if we can kind of compare where we're at this point with those and with what we were thinking, kind of laying out, looking at some of the talent. But again, the conversation, of course, is definitely one-sided, at least earlier on. So I don't know if it's been corrected and the books will bear out something different. But so for the finals, you've got OKC, obviously a big favorite. So I don't know if that speaks to the West or just obviously them as a team. But then, and so for winning the finals, again, the perceived maybe quote unquote easier path, like we're saying in the East, is going to lend it to the odds being easier for some of the Eastern Conference teams. So wait a second here. Let's go for the regular season wins and see. Oh, is there a better way to look at the list? I guess not. 46 for Atlanta, 42 for Boston. Brooklyn, they're going to be 20. So where's Denver at? 53 for Denver? Maybe. And they definitely did, add some good talent. And you imagine with Jokic, they're going to be a 50-win team. But I don't know if we just like their title odds way better. So I guess here, let's go back to title odds and double check. Because they're 8-1. The Cavs at plus 750. Yeah, I guess with Jokic, you're going to still like that a little bit more. Them over the Rockets. But again, them, I guess, being double to the Magic. Them being even, triple to the Hawks at 31-1 to win the title over the Denver Nuggets at 8-1. I don't know, chat. I don't know if I'm being crazy here. Because again, I feel like Jokic at 8-1. You're like, well, that could be okay. But I don't know if that's too far off from where a team might be at some point for him in the regular season or just any sort of preseason in general as well too. But you've also got, like we're saying, I guess Detroit winning the title this year would be a little. So I guess Atlanta winning the title versus them winning the conference could be different. So again, that's going to be affected by just their own conference opponents if we look at those odds. Boston at 15-1 to win the conference over Milwaukee. Whoa, Milwaukee 17-1. Hey, yo, chat. No, literally no respect on Giannis's name at this point. Denver 5-1 almost to win, plus 490. Houston is 5-1, and then it drops Minnesota 10-1. Clippers at 10-1. The Lakers at 10-1. I mean, chat. Can we be honest? Like, are the Clippers gonna win the title? I mean, again, maybe. Hey, yo, strongest maybe ever, but I don't know. Adding. Who did they even add? Bradley Beal? I mean, it's not. It is what it is. But the Warriors at 15-1. The Spurs at 36-1. I mean, that's better than the Clippers at 10-1, honestly. And again, that's just a value thing. But still, I mean, the Mavs at 21-1. Davis, Cooper Flagg and Spencer Dinwiddie over Kawhi and James Harden. Who else is on this team, chat? And Bradley Beal as well too. Hey, yo. And then it moves into the crazy odds. Again, it's going to be more difficult maybe for some of those teams to win than, like, Charlotte, just because, like we're saying, hey, yo, it might be easier. And, like, they're giving Philly might be, like, a decent regular season team next year. Like, there's a chance that they're back near the top of the draft as well, too, if Embiid and George are playing. But who knows? McCain and Maxey and Edgecombe could just be a fun regular season trio as well too. So Maxey's another one. Maxey wasn't even on the list as well too. So if we're saying our guy Paolo, I feel like if Maxey's playing, chat, and he's putting up 27 a game, I mean, you got to have Maxey in the mix. So those two guys could definitely Paolo and Maxey could definitely just immediately step in and be the replacement guys for next year. And if we're saying somebody's got to replace Tyler Hero, maybe that's where it gets opened up for, the potential craziness. Peyton Pritchard all of a sudden becomes an all-star next year if the Celtics are really good. Or that random third guy, like we're saying, Franz or Jaden Ivey or something could be in that spot. But, yeah, Franz would be like an outside looking in. I think Ivey could be a interesting one. I wish you could bet this, chat. Hey, yo, who could make the playoffs? You can bet, of course, awards. So I don't know, like Ivey's MVP odds, if that dictates what they think about him as a all-star. Advia is our favorite to win most improved. Amen Thompson at 17-1. Scoot. So just the Blazers are going to be a much better team, but their win total. So Ivy at 20-1 for most improved. Can you win most improved if you just play more games next year? It's like, okay, if Ivy plays 80 games instead of 30, but same stat line, is he most improved or just able to impact more than what he had originally. But yeah, shout out. Hey, what do we just click? Shout out to the promotions. It is what it is. I'm sure there's a lot of promotions on BetStamp right now that you guys can go look at. Link in the bio. Shout out. But yeah, so I mean, like I'm saying, I think there are guys to step in and take over for the lost Eastern Conference All-Stars that we could potentially have this year. But it is 77-78 as Draymond hits the free throws with 8 minutes left. So we should, of course, lock back in on the Game 5. Steph with 22. So we're about to hit the crazy Steph Curry run of the game as well. And his closeout performance. Like we're saying, it's not just the later versions of the team that were awesome in the closeout, or even them in the 2016 run as well too, before they got to the finals. Obviously not closing out that, but still that team throughout the season and throughout the playoffs was still that type of team. And LeBron from 3 puts this team up 1. So again, the Warriors were able to go into Cleveland and win a Game 6, and it felt like once they, of course, won the Game 5, just the ability for them to win one of the next 2 was going to definitely happen. The Cavs winning those next 2 with the depleted roster. Oh, and this is one of those iconic Steph threes right off, dribble, right off the dribble on Dellavedova. You forget that it's off the LeBron make as well, too. The momentum shift of that. Shout out. LeBron drives. Shumpert in the corner. Dellavedova out on the wing. Tristan Thompson throws it back to LeBron in the corner. Of course. Is there a foul? So is LeBron going to go back to the free throw line? I don't know. They're not in the bonus right now. So I think it's an inbound. But, yeah, I don't even... Steph Curry, LeBron, the back and forth. Ayo. It's got us distracted from where we're at. But, yeah, like we were saying, this series was tied at 2-2. So if they... and again, it's a credit to Warriors that they're able to close it out the way they are. But the Cavs do win this game. I mean, 3-2, and then LeBron wins this series. I mean... I don't know, again, if it's a more interesting what-if, obviously, than 2016, because 2016 becomes so historic. But if 2016, if they don't have the, if it's 3-1 and they don't have the loss already, do they have the same sort of motivation of we haven't won one yet? I mean, LeBron winning his first season back in Cleveland as well, too. I mean, it would have been, of course, great, because this is, again, remember, the first season of LeBron back in Cleveland. And goes again to sort of the change of the league, like we were saying, in those sort of 10 years periods, where if you're looking from that like 05 to 15 period, where you still have a lot of, like we're saying, those big 3 guys still dominating, but then it really is just the way how quickly the league does change in 2015 that makes it such a stark difference. Because like we're saying, even the Spurs and the Heat series is there's still an athleticism thing, and it feels like the league is trending more with the wings, and the speed of the game feels a little bit more modern and has still evolved since 2005. But then the way that they are able to shift the league with 3-point shooting so fast, and just the way that the style of play changes all the way around, is of course about as dramatic as we've seen in NBA history. But also, again, coincides with LeBron jumping back to Cleveland. So as much as, again, LeBron night, but it is a change in this timeline thing where he sort of starts his, again, and what we find out is the second decade of his career, but starts this new phase of his career on his new team, and then the league just shifts wildly around him. I mean, and again, even the superstars as well, too, that were just dominating in that era completely shift as well too. I mean, the Spurs are a part of the shift of the league at this time. The Spurs get eliminated in the first round this year. Ayo, shout out. It's a painful series to go back and 7 games. It's brilliant Chris Paul shot in Game 7 at the end that I'll never forget where I was at. The painful memories of watching that one. But they're immediately out of the playoffs right away. The Wade and Bosch thing just doesn't have any, legs, unfortunately, after LeBron leaves. Melo starts to enter a different phase of his career. Kobe is, the next season, right, because we get the 73 wins and the Kobe game in the same night. So Kobe is, right at the tail end of his run as well too, but the Lakers are just bad at this point, so they're not even really a competitive team. But the just really quickly everything sort of pivots around them, and all of us, like we're saying, even now it does feel like the 3-point thing and the aesthetic of the NBA is different. And we were talking about that with like a guy like Kenny Smith, where all of a sudden now the versatility in the players, where you want, even some of the 6'3", 6'2" guys are starting to get phased out in a certain type of way as the league trends a little taller. So it is still, shifted in a way in the last 10 years. But nothing, even as we like say, as distinct as it felt this past season in a way, and in these past playoffs, it didn't have the same as dramatic flip effect as we did get in 2014-15. And them not being in a conference finals as well too, I don't know if that matters. Like the Thunder are kind of close to the Warriors in a sense, where again they didn't emerge out of nowhere. The Warriors didn't emerge out of nowhere. But they did definitely take a massive step forward, winning the title. But, I mean, I think it was a little bit more surprising that, again, Luka powered that Mavs team to the finals the way that he did. Like, we thought maybe the stage was set for the Thunder to have the run last year. And it was like, okay, they still just need a bit more experience before they actually make the final push like they finally did this season. But that type of big season from season jumps. Let's see where the Thunder were at in 23-24 in terms of wins. So yeah, and I guess their win total was pretty crazy. They were at 57 wins already. So I think the Warriors were right around there, because they were 67 wins in this 2015 season, or the upper 60s as well too, yeah, 67-15 off of 51-31. So definitely a little bit more of a tier, because again, 50 win team is a certain tier of team, but that 50, like we were saying earlier, that 55 kind of win threshold is a little bit different, where if you're winning 56, 7, 8 games, any of those upper 50s, you're a little bit more of a dominant team than just having crossed over into that 50 win, where there's like okay, you just are kind of emerging sort of factor as well that could be in play with a win total like that. So it 16 wins as well too is just more dramatic than 10 as well too, just simple math of it. So I don't know if we have a team that could quite make the 16 win jump this regular season, but again, looking at the East, and the reason that I think, again, like we mentioned earlier, there's a little bit of correlation as well too, is because this finals was affected by injuries. It's not in the same type of way where we had them going into the season. But, we did lose, again, Kyrie and Kevin Love in the Eastern Conference playoffs this year, and that did have a major impact on what this finals definitely could have been. I mean, it's difficult, and that's another reason, like we're saying, this one has the aging effect that it did. I mean, we ultimately got great games and, again, great performances. But there is going to be that overhanging what if, whereas as good as, the what if is sort of what if Kevin Durant didn't go to the Warriors. It's like we still had the full versions of the teams, and it's just the Warriors team was just so overpowered that they couldn't be stopped. But this one, of course, the Cavs were a little bit shorthanded. But like we said, we had the full regular season for these teams to, make the adjustments for those type of massive injuries. Not the same team sustaining it, 2 injuries as well too. But I guess the Pacers did lose 2 players with Halliburton and Miles Turner in a way. Not quite the same level as Kyrie and LeBron, but still. Is there a team that could make this type of sizable jump? And like we're saying, I don't know if the Pistons and the Magic are totally off of that table as well too. So they would be, Pistons would be, 16 wins would have them, and hey, I had us going crazy. That would be quite the win. That'd be up at the 60-win team next year. I don't know if that'd be crazy, but that 10-win jump, like we saw the Thunder take, so that would have them at that 54-win mark. So they wouldn't even need, a 10-win jump for them to really establish themselves as a more dominant team. It's much more realistic for them to make a rise like that. Orlando at 41, them at 10 to 51, then they would need more of that 15-win jump. Like 56 wins would probably feel more realistic. And again, we're just throwing out a crazy number, like 15 wins. But here, let's see what I imagine that they're at a 50-win win total. So they're not too crazy off of it. It's closer to that number than, of course, the number that. So yeah, right at 50. So they'd be closer to their win total number at 54 than at the number that they were last year, going over as well, too. Atlanta at 40 last year. I guess what did we say they were at? 43? 46. Over 46 and a half plus 100. Oh, chat. I don't know. Are people betting the Atlanta under? Is there do we need to get back on the blogs? Is there something going on? I guess we can't start making bets blind. Or is that the best way to make bets, I think? Honestly. That's our advice. Just no info. Just bet off instinct. But yeah, we got I guess Atlanta would be, with 10 wins right at 50 wins. So not quite, again, jumping into the elite tier, but jumping up into that really competitive tier in the conference and being an upper half team for sure. And, I guess could New York potentially jump into the 60 win total next year would be the question. New coach, I don't know, different minutes. Maybe they need all the minutes from the guys to get that type of production. But they would be not necessarily off the table for that as well too. So 86 to 93, and we've got 2:45 left. Curry off the dribble again on Dellavedova, and this is where they go up 10, 2:43. David Blatt with the timeout. We haven't even mentioned David Blatt coaching this team. Of course, Ty Lue takes over for him next year, wins the title as the guy that took over in the middle of the season as well. But that, like we're saying, the clutchness of Curry, maybe, I don't know if they didn't have the most guys to throw out there as well too. But again, if this series is now, I don't know if they feel as committed to having Dellavedova on Curry. Maybe they get a little bit more Shumpert and J.R. Smith, but they tried everything as well too. I mean, and that is the underrated factor where, again, you go to the next finals and you just are kind of throwing your hands up anyways as like, well, they have Durant and Steph and Clay, and it's like there's nothing we just have no amount of guys to stop these guys. So it's going to have to be a one-on-one, kind of everybody trying their best effort anyways. But even still with this team, there was a version of it where it's like, okay, we know we have to stop Steph. So the can't stopness of Steph, Jesus, Chad, I almost burped up my entire energy drink right there. The can't stopness of Steph Curry, and again, you feel it, of course. Really into the next season as well too, into the regular season, into the playoffs, where he's at his most dominant statistically. But in the finals on this stage, this is where you see him closing out the game up until, in a solo type effort, up until, again, the 2022 finals in Boston in that series. And the thing that, of course, again, differentiates this series from that series is, with all due respect to the Celtics, the opponent that he was playing. The Celtics team maybe a little bit better rest of the roster than what the Cavs had. I don't know. It's close. But again, the best player factor of the Cavs having LeBron just puts it on a little bit of a different level in terms of the legendary status of who you're going up against. And, Tatum will climb his name up in the list as well too. I mean, he's on pace to have a great career, but I don't know if he's pacing for LeBron at this point. Like, again, even LeBron, like we knew, like LeBron had to catch MJ. LeBron had to start the path at 17, and even still, he's barely like, okay, I guess he just now got there. I guess the high school stuff, it's like 30 years later almost for LeBron. But chat in the Rainbow Three. I don't know if you heard the Mike Breen. He got it in the background, but 2:16 left, cuts the lead to 7. I mean, even still, just a glimmer of hope for the Cavs. But yeah, I mean, again, the status of the opponent that he's going up against, where it's like, oh man, they have nothing to throw up against Steph, and that means LeBron, it's going to cost him a title as well too. And again, at this point, knowing LeBron has had the decade plus run in the league and Steph is still emerging, like, we're not necessarily watching it going, these are two legendary guys at this point. Again, it's still two legendary seasons, two great players, but not necessarily two legendary guy status. So that is, I guess, the thing that we never got. If LeBron had stayed in the East and had been, the veteran guy, would have been, again, that these are two champions of the sport in a real way. I mean, again, we eventually got there with the regular season dominance and with them constantly matching up a couple of finals later. But like, it'll like we're all like you'll just always have to say it. Just the matchup thing was never quite the same because of the Durant factor on the team, and that affected the LeBron Steph matchup factor of it as well too. So this is right up on the list for the all-time LeBron Steph games. And Steph is great he has great moments. I mean, that's the thing about him and Durant as well too, is Steph is so great at, and especially was at that time, playing off of Durant and letting Durant have his moments of, oh, Durant needs to cook. But then here was Iguodala 1 for 10 from the free throw line in this game 5. The rest of the team good enough, but it won the finals MVP and he had a 1 for 10 free throw performance. Hey, yo, it is what it is. But he would have, again, obviously Steph Curry could have a heat check, but his ability to be like, oh, Durant, it's my moment to have a couple of 3 threes in a row right here. Like, he would just rip those off. So he would have these incredible run moments and like had a couple of end of the quarter, end of the half, like his end of the half run in that, is it game 1? There's one of those games in those finals where he has like that long end of the first half 3-pointer, and it's like a really great half, but it's one of those halves where you're like, oh, the Warriors still won that half, and it's like, oh man, they're definitely gonna win this game if the Cavs played that well and lost the half. But again, his ability to just step into the moments around Durant, not to, playing around Durant, but from a scoring standpoint, to do that was different than him fully taking over in moments like this as well. And for as much as, again, we look back and go, okay, Steph was, what was he looking like in the 2014 finals? It's not like, hey, call out Klay time. It's not like, it's necessarily an all-time Klay finals. Again, Klay 2016, Klay just in general, he is a legend. I mean, we're not going to sit here and rewrite the Klay storybooks because of what he had. But it's not like, oh, Klay is the reason they won this finals behind Steph. I mean, 40% from the field in this finals, 30%, 12 for 40 from 3 for Klay in this finals was 15 points a game as well. So in 16-17 versus Cleveland, 43% of the field, but 43% from 3, 16 a game. And then in the sweep against Cleveland, 40. Yeah, I said he was really good in one of those two. But yeah, the 17-18 would have been 16 a game, but still 48% of the field and 43% from 3. Just really deadly. And I mean, that 17-18 was obviously great stuff. And I guess he was cooking as well too in that Raptors series in the games that he was playing. 54% from the field, 58%, 24 for 41 from 3, 26 a game. Hey, yo, chat. Just ridiculous. He was crazy. I guess for the playoffs in general, almost 40% in every series. So that was his best playoffs, unfortunately. Hey, yo, chat. Robbed. Klay Thompson. Robbed those years. Who knows what how that impacted, the rest of the years as well, too. And even the years we're getting now. Because even the finals, again, against Boston, 35% from the floor, 35% from 3 as well. So, again, we're not, Klay is great. We would never doubt or, question having Klay Thompson on our team in a major moment because of some of these numbers. But I'm just saying, the aesthetic, watching it, what it is, it is a lot of Steph Curry being the solo sort of scoring star in these type of moments. And even in the games where he wasn't necessarily the most efficient, like we're saying, he was still tasked with scoring more so than you would think. And there was big stretches, like we're saying, from some of the bench guys for sure. But second halves in closeout minutes, it was still the final 5 and still the iconic lineups that they were throwing out at the time, the death squad lineup that they had. Is that the actual term for it, the death squad, or just the death lineup, or I forget exactly what it was called. But it was obviously a crazy nickname, and I mean, it really lived up to it, of course. But, and, definitely got improved, like we're saying, when it flipped from Harrison Barnes to Kevin Durant. Shout out Harrison Barnes. But Curry at the free throw line, 101 to 89. So, chat, the good old days of basketball. Really just the peak. And, of course, the next year is arguably just the best finals of all time, And, and maybe there is slightly better games played in finals history, but still, I mean, it's great stuff. 34 in this game for Steph. Yeah, 14 in the first quarter. So this is a great prequel. This is really like a, a Batman Begins to a Dark Knight, or maybe even like a Godfather to a Godfather 2. Because I think Batman Begins is a little bit more cult classic status. I think Godfather 2 is just one of those like GOAT, like obviously Dark Knight's one of those GOAT movies as well too. But I think Godfather 2 is one of those movies that's so goated that, again, it's like, okay, the Godfather 1 it's just not the only thing with it. It's just not the Godfather 2. So I think it's like Godfather 1, long way of saying it, is a better movie than Batman Begins. I think, if we're looking at it. But I don't know, best prequels to great sequels. Hey, I don't know. Those are the two sequels that just jump to mind, obviously. Those are, though, kind of the ultimate sequels. I mean, they are one of those things. Obviously, we know this with franchises, but difficult to have the two movie thing. You either have the one is kind of good, and then you level up, or the one is the one that really checks all the boxes, and then the level up in 2 almost becomes the downfall of the movie, or again, just whatever the idea is really just kind of a one movie thing. John Wick is really, maybe this is like a John Wick to a John Wick 2. Again, John Wick is a little bit, it didn't have the Godfather 2, again, it's like awards and all that stuff. Like, John Wick 2 didn't quite get in the Oscar conversation, unfortunately. But People's Choice, definitely could have, and again, still has like would still have gotten the same critical acclaim of an Oscars movie, just didn't get in the categories. So the, Rotten Tomatoes scores and stuff all would have been the same if that matters. But okay, 2.4 left, 104 to 91 left, or I guess will be the final score, 208 left in the game as the clock runs out, and the Warriors go up 3-1 in the series, and of course the Warriors start their dynasty. Steph starts his run as the guy, of course, right next to Steph, or right next to LeBron, as the co-star in the league, and really is again, just a major credit to him that he emerged in that way, because, it is an on the court thing with MJ as well too, as to, again, why nobody was able to emerge in that way. And, there were other, again, marketable stars around that time for sure. But it really was when MJ was in the league, he was this gravitational force unlike no other. And I mean, LeBron has been right there. But I guess the ability for Steph to, again, sort of develop his own gravitational pull. And while it's still, again, I'm wrong all night. But while it's still 97% of what LeBron was able to, like, it's still, he was absolutely a co-star to LeBron in this era. Like, it was no, LeBron is the number, again, however you say, but LeBron still, like, the basketball stuff, you could always argue the number one guy, but the star power stuff, like, I mean, again, he's a 1B co-star guy to LeBron for this decade run. It's not him being, LeBron's the number one and then Steph's the number 2. I mean, Steph is right there, and you could argue, again, the basketball stuff with what he proved in 2022. This decade for Steph is as impactful a decade as LeBron had in the league. I mean, again, the difference is LeBron had 2 of these decades, and, what player in NBA history had 2 of these decades? But again, Steph had this decade. So it's not quite, again, it's still just a smidge under, I think, what you hear people talk about, like MJ and then, LeBron. It's just, I mean, again, those are the top 2 for sure. But nobody was able to quite get to Steph level in the LeBron era, or in the MJ era. So, and maybe that's just, maybe that is actually more common in NBA history than I think about it. You do kind of always have the counterparts. Maybe that's how MJ is so incredible, that he was able to become that guy without the villain in a way. Interesting, chat. Sometimes you think you learn something new every day, I guess. But, you just think you got Russell and Chamberlain, you got Magic and Bird. I mean, Kareem in the 70s, kind of a solo in a way as a top dog, but not necessarily dominating from a championships and in the finals in the 70s every year, even though he did get a win for sure. And obviously when he got to the Lakers with Magic, was in that dominant team every year. But didn't really have the counterpart, and that I think maybe, and maybe other reasons as well too, but is a reason why there isn't such a push around him as a face of the league type guy. So maybe in a way it did help LeBron for him to have Steph as a counterpart. I think it did. They definitely, I mean, they raised each other's games for sure, but just the star powerness of it, they raised both of their star power, for each other as well too by being each other's counterparts. But yeah, either way, what were we saying for sequels, chat? This was a John Wick for a John Wick 1 or The Godfather. I forget what we were saying. Oh, I just wanted to talk about, I guess, Pacino, because I was saying co-stars. I was going to make a Pacino-Steph Curry comparison. Is Pacino and Steph Curry a fair comparison? I don't know. But, yeah, again, it's definitely that type of dynamic of these guys being, again, the sort of the villain hero. So, and it's not necessarily one was more defined. Like Magic and Bird, it was more on, again, which side were you on? Not necessarily a Batman Joker. Okay, there's a side here, but okay, maybe one is cooler than the other. Who knows? But it's like, okay, there's sides that we're probably still taking Batman's side at the end of the day. But it's like, okay, for whichever fan base you were, you had the counterpart fan base to go against, and he definitely was, of course, again, an equal counterpart to the way that, and I guess not even to compare to MJ, but again in a way that nobody really was in the 2010s. And as much as I guess the Spurs were a foil as a team, so maybe it was really like kind of Popovich in a way that got that label as like maybe sort of a Spurs LeBron Pop type of rivalry, as these two, those were the legendary guys in the game. And again, Duncan in the game, but more of a part of the team than Duncan being the legendary guy going toe to toe with LeBron at the end of those finals for the Heat versus the Spurs. But he didn't, and Durant, I guess Durant in a way, but we only had the one finals with him in OKC, so it never felt like we had, and I guess maybe that would be a little crazy to say we never had the true LeBron versus Durant matchup. But again, it's the Steph thing. It's just we understand that it's great, but it's just a different thing, that it's separate kind of from NBA history. It's like, okay, those matchups are what they are. But for him to like truly carry a team, not to, again, like, oh, Durant never carried a team, but we're just saying, like, again, he was on, it's still Steph's team in that type of way. So for them to have the true LeBron, the true solo LeBron versus Durant rivalry, it was always going to be LeBron versus the Warriors, always going to be LeBron versus Durant. We just never really got that like fully in a playoffs finals type of way. Even though, again, their performances, they did match up against each other toe to toe. But again, it's not even a hot take. Like, you wouldn't say, like, the basketball stuff, you would definitely 100% say that Durant is a great counterpart to LeBron. I mean, the fantasy draft stuff, there's probably 3 people, I don't know. There's only people in Durant's family would take Durant higher than me in an all-time like NBA pickup game type draft. Like, I'm like, wherever you think I'm taking Durant in an all-time draft, I'm taking him 3 spots too high. I don't care who's on the list. Like, I'm building my team, like, being like, okay, these are the guys that I want, and even if, Shaq fell to me and I've got the 14th pick, like, if Durant's on the board at 14, like, holy cow. But, taking Durant like 4th all time in this pickup league draft, it doesn't matter. I'm taking Durant. But, and Steph, I'm taking all these, I'm somehow going to take all the top 5 guys in NBA history in this team with like a 6th pick in this draft. But still, I mean, I would be as pro Durant as anybody in an on-the-court situation. But the off-the-court superstar level stuff that is, the arbitrary stuff that we talk about, but still I think exists. I mean, again, Steph was that counterpart to LeBron and on the team with Durant, so we never got to see Durant fully emerge as that counterpart to LeBron, again, even in that era before he went to the Warriors as well, too. So that was, again, super beneficial for both those guys as well, too, to have them raising each other's status. But let's take a quick break, chat. Ayo, the game is, of course, finished up. Shout out, Game 5 of the 2015 NBA Finals. And we'll be back, chat, to wrap up the pod right after this. Pause. Are we back? There we are. We are back, chat. Hey, yo, what's a guy got to do to get on some WNBA around here? We're trying, chat. We figured, aces playing are already into the game. We've missed like the first half hour of the game, so probably too much for an aces game at this point in 2025. Not looking too great, but they are playing the Sparks, and it is the return of Cameron Brink. So I don't know. Well, all of a sudden we're watching the Sparks games. What do you know, Chad? But the number 2 pick from, of course, last year's stat class has returned, and I was thinking it has been an interesting, of course. Again, we're only a year or two removed from that class, so they still obviously the impact that they're going to have in the W is going to be, just the on the court, off the court stuff is going to be still so much crazier going forward. You would imagine, so many years. But the getting off to the start, and again, it's not like the on the court stuff hasn't been great, but unfortunately there has been a little bit of a injury thing that has played a factor in the start of some of the stuff. Oh, Chet, the Aces are up 31-18 to start the second quarter. Thank goodness. Hey, yo, I don't even care if it's a bad game. We just want to see the Aces just do well for a couple of games. It is what it is. Wait, is Cameron Brink actually out there? Oh, okay, there we go, chat. Hey, yo, so we got Brink and, of course, Rakia Jackson as well, too. Number 4 pick you can't count out from that same draft class. So the young core, finally getting a chance to reemerge together in the Sparks. And, of course, with Kelsey Plum as well, too. Hopefully she's still healthy and good to go. Everybody's still good to go. I got, NBA brain as well, too. It's like we're saying with some of these rookies, is everybody going to be hurt? But that's one of the reasons that I think, as much as, I feel like people, again, with the Angel Reese marketing stuff, some of the people are like, hey, what's going on here? Who are actually the stars of the league? But, again, she's actually healthy and playing. And some of the players that have got picked before her in that draft haven't necessarily been on the court all that much. Again, when they've been on the court, it's still been good. But Angel Reese has been out there and has continued to get better. And there is going to be just that impact as well, too, if she's getting the minutes at this point. I mean, these people are still putting in the work. They're still not, lacking for that type of stuff. But she's actually just getting out there, playing, improving, having the log in the time spent as well, too, and getting to some of those checkpoints maybe a little bit quicker than some of her other, player counterparts from these draft classes as well. Because, even Beckers, of course, has a rookie this year, but has been a little in and out with some of the injury stuff as well, too. So I think, because we were kind of talking, is the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, is this the Magic Bird draft of the W? And I'm not saying it, obviously from a talent standpoint, the way that they've injected the league, the parallels are definitely there. But if we're talking about, again, sustaining it once they got into the league, and it is what it is. Those guys were, I think, did Magic miss some games? Let me see. I just got to, because MJ missed a bunch of games in his second season as well, too. It's not injury didn't play. So he's not listed, of course, 78, 79, but he was playing in college that year. So it's not like he was in the Celtics not playing, sitting on the bench or something or injured or whatever. He got drafted, I guess, and just stayed in school for a year. But, yeah, once he got in the league, of course, he was playing most of the games up until the 88 season. And then Magic as well, too, was 77. Okay, so as I said, maybe he did, but his second season, he was 37 games played, 3 games in the playoffs, and then they did go back and win the finals the next year as well. And then, of course, Magic, his rookie season, he had already won the finals at that point. So it's a little bit of a different narrative if you win the finals and then get hurt in your second season. Again, even compared to MJ, who was still on the rise at that point. It hadn't quite had the playoff run. But, and again, we're judging it based off of, this one season with some of the injury stuff to start. And, like we're saying, the NBA has their own injury stuff as well, too. So it's not just, unique to one league. But, again, it's okay. And I'm not saying that there isn't still, obviously, there's an interest of just, obviously for them, one, just being in the league. But the league itself is outside of the couple of players, not even just the rookies, but as well, too, the veterans are getting better, even not just getting better, but as, guys like me are now okay, well, let's watch the WNBA, and we're actually getting familiar with some of these guys. Their popularity is continuing to rising. So you've got, the veteran players can be kind of establishing themselves as quote unquote newer stars right now, if I can say that in a way, like it in sort of a same way as the rookies can right now. So, and again, I'm not saying like it's obviously not new. Like we're in a a rising period for it, and it's been continuing to get popular over the last 5 years or so. But again, as that just continued popularity really continues to ramp up, and the names get more popular all the way around, like the star power again just continues to increase all the way around as well too. But having those young stars and those guys that are gonna be the future faces of the league, quote unquote, out there, and again building the storylines as well too, building the competitiveness, again actually just getting the experience and playing is gonna just help continue to push the league forward as well. And it's not like what's the league doing here as well too. It's just I don't even it's not even it's just it is what it is. Like there's been a couple of injuries and it's been a bummer, but it's just okay. What is it's like okay, is this gonna hurt the W? Again, it's not saying that. It's just I guess we haven't even seen what is going to be the full version of these players competing against each other, I guess is the way to say it, or like a preview version of it as well too, because obviously even if they're out there playing now, they're still only second or third years. They're going to be better versions, whatever the apex versions of themselves as players are going to be, and whatever the best versions of the competitions are going to be, like we're still going to get that regardless. But again, even the sort of the previewing familiarity stuff, like I guess it's just unfortunate that we haven't quite had the mix of all of the talent playing together. Again, the certain draft class talent, lined up in that same type of way. But it'll get there. It'll the health and all the stuff. It'll line up for sure. And the teams are still building, like we're saying. When the players are out there, they are definitely still proving that the rising talent is there. So Caitlin Clark did miss Fever Mercury game. DeWanna Bonner return game. Oh, DeWanna Bonner's back. Hey, yo. So there's a guy at work that told us that Caitlin Clark was going to be out for the season. He might, who knows? He might be right. Hey, like, maybe that's what the conversations are. But he does get a little dramatic with his reporting when he does tell us about the stories that he is reading. So projected return date. And again, maybe he's just ahead of the curve. He's like, hey, yo, we just got to consider the long-term health here. But he did also tell me today that Taylor Swift had a baby. So I don't think that happened either. Do we double check that here real quick? I don't know if we start a new segment about just reporting. We might have to, chat, about reporting on what this guy tells me. I mean, shout out, he's trying. Oh, wait a second. Is there like a pregnancy thing here? Oh, this Travis, well, I guess we don't want to like unveil kids here on the pod, but couple baby, they named their baby after Taylor Swift. Receive incredible baby news. They went on Instagram. The parent announced good news. See the baby. Oh, so this is all just probably this one baby. So what did they named it like Taylor Travis? Oh, did they name it like Taylor Kelsey or something like that, or Kelsey Taylor? They named. Oh, it is Kelsey Taylor. Oh, Kelsey. Wait, we got that. Kelsey Taylor does actually have like a real name ring to it as well too. Sometimes you can be like, okay, you're gonna name your kid. This is what's gonna happen to me. You're like, oh, what? You named your son Denzel Washington Morrow? Like, oh, really creative. But again, Kelsey Taylor as like, oh, that. Wait a second, that's Travis. Oh, okay, I get what you're doing there. But yeah, so maybe he must. Again, shout out. You see what he's just misread the headline a little bit, and an honest headline. It seems like he hasn't spread any, oh, here's what here's a fake headline from the DNC, and we're like, oh, hey, what's going on? But, as long as it's sort of celebrity gossip and sports news, you're like, silly, goofy guy, it is what it is. But, yeah, we might have to start a segment. The one thing that he did tell me that was, I remember it was way before the Saban retirement stuff actually started to happen. But I remember he was like, Saban's going to retire. And it's like, what? Saban's going to retire? I don't think that's going to happen. And then we got to the end of the year. And it's like, oh, wait a second. Saban's going to retire? Hey, yo, he's locked in. But, again, it's hit or miss with some of the reporting. So we're not calling him out. But, yeah, shout out. Taylor Swift, breaking news, not pregnant yet. Hey, yo, we'll just have to, I guess, report back and double check. And it'd be like, wait a second, I don't think you're right there. I just like, we don't correct him. We're like, oh really? Travis Kelce, that's cool. We got it's fun as well too. You know what's more fun at work? A conversation about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's hypothetical kid, and you could just, I guess, but just I guess a hypothetical, a conversation based around hypotheticals is just always better than a real conversation in a workplace scenario. I would say personally, for me, I would much rather have that for a shift. I don't know if we're giving away, if that's like deep personality stuff that we're giving away about what type of stuff we'd rather talk about, but in a workplace environment where it's like, okay, we're all here for the next couple hours, let's get through the shift. And not to say that, again, shout out, we got great coworkers, but there's always, not even, again, the coworker element of it, but just the environment element of it, is that part of it is always going to exist. But those type of just like, okay, this we could just totally make this up, is obviously going to be better than okay, let's talk about the actual Travis Kelce Taylor Swift news that is happening. But yeah, either way. So I guess we'll see if he has other reports about what's happening with Caitlin Clark at some point, because make no mistake, he's definitely locked in. I mean, as people are around here, it's not like, oh, call it out, this guy's the one guy keeping up on Caitlin Clark news. It's we're in Iowa, and we're very close to where Caitlin Clark was, performing historic basketball accomplishments over at the university. So it is not, it's like literally everybody in the state is locked in on what's going on with Caitlin Clark as well too. I mean, if you have a hot spot for Fever basketball, it is Indiana, and it is this location in Iowa right here, because in her hometown as well too. Like, we are, and I'm not, again, you get people making claims about their cities all the time, and I guess we could go to the stats. You can be like, oh, New York City has more viewers. It's like, okay, well, New York City has more people, but I'm just the whatever the Caitlin Clark means to the city power rankings. I mean, again, it's literally just like, this is where her career has passed through these different checkpoints. So the people in this area, there's just gonna be a little bit of a, she's a little bit of a celebrity, but I guess long way of saying, we'll see if he's got more injury updates for us next time we see him at work. But at least, again, we get Cameron Brink back, another superstar as well too, and again, other superstars in the league as well. But as the league, I mean, you're always going to want more superstars, is the point. So it's just to continue to see, even again, if we're not getting all the superstars yet at the same time, it's like, okay, we see the different pieces are, of course, continuing to assemble as well too. And down by 13 early on, I guess we can't totally count him out. So Kelsey Plum revenge game as well too. I don't think this is the first time that they've matched up. I mean, what are we at in the season at this point? I guess the Aces are 13-13. So again, just had the All-Star break, so about halfway through the season, of course. But they would have, I assume, have matched up at one point already, because I think Kelsey Plum did have a initial good performance against the Aces. Here, let's double check. Hey, yo. And see what we got going on. I guess, of course, we can look at the stats. And is Breanna Stewart out right now as well, too? Speaking of other WNBA superstars, because I think that reportedly avoids serious leg issue. Oh, so not a good injury as well to avoid significant, but I guess we didn't see like a replay of an injury or anything like that. So I don't know if there's an ugly twist or something like that happens. But I noticed that the Liberty had been dropping some games, looking at some box scores, and I was like, oh, the Liberty. Because make no mistake, again, speaking of rivals, like, Stewart is Asia Wilson's rival, so I'm not saying that, we're rooting for injuries over here, but it's not like we want the Liberty and Breanna Stewart just be plowing through the playoffs again, like, oh, there goes Asia Wilson tumbling down the legacy rankings as Breanna Stewart continues to climb up. But, and, even Jonquil Jones and Ionescu as well, too. But yeah, it's like, okay, we just need those players to stay a little bit in alignment with some of the success stuff. So, again, watching the team scores, be like, okay, some losses we're a fan of. But I didn't, and then I saw that she wasn't lined up, and I was like, oh, she's probably hurt. But, we'll see. I guess we'll sit out her first game of the season. Shout out. So, I guess we just saw the one game then. So, did they drop some games with her before that then? So, either way, again, some losses, not some injuries, but some losses, shout out. that's again, chat. We're not even like, we can be honest. Like we won't even give ourselves credit for being like a great WNBA fan. To be, we don't want to be disrespectful to the WNBA fans as well too that are actually putting in the work, watching all the games. But we would consider the Aces our team, and even the casual Aces fan that we are, we are like. Do I hate the Liberty more than I like the Aces at this point for them taking down the Aces in the playoffs? But it is what it is. We have the sports. It's kind of, I guess we're sports petty when it comes to rooting for these teams. But for the Sparks against the Aces this year, let's see. Las Vegas, did they play? Yeah, so they did. The Sparks won by 8. And I guess she had 13 in that game. Oh, wait a second. They lost by 15. She had 17 earlier as well too, so they played a couple of times, and then just those 2 times. So I guess she hasn't had a great game against Aces. Shout out. I guess it was those early games or just revenge games to the Aces fans in general, with just her popping off and having great performances, not being on the team. And she had 30 the other night as well too. She's at 20 a game for the season, 37% from 3. So yeah, she's having a great scoring season as well. And if they do continue to get all the pieces back, like they could continue to be a feisty team. They're on a little bit of a win streak right now. I guess, and a win over the Liberty included a 2-point win. Connecticut, I mean, again, casual WNBA fan, but we know they're getting a win over Connecticut. It is what it is at this point. So they got a couple of wins there, and then also able to take down the Mystics as well. So they're 17-8 at this point. But yeah, had a little bit of a losing stretch here and then dropped the last couple. So still up near the top. Breanna Stewart, 24 games played, 18, 6.5, 4 assists, 47% from the field. So 18 a game. I think Stewart, of course, the team is not as great. Or as Stewart, Wilson, the team is not as great. But she's at, 21 a game, still, similar field goal percentages all the way around for her, but 9 rebounds as well too. I mean, chat, the season last year was just insane. 27-12, legitimately one of the best seasons that a player is I've ever seen play and just dominate basketball. Like it was crazy. Like on any level, like college as well too. I guess college would be like, we haven't necessarily watched any of the other levels as well too than that, but I guess like international, like Wemby dominating it, or Luka as well. But even as good as those guys were, they wouldn't have been like the most dominant international guys, or even of all time as well. Like when they were playing, like Oscar Schmidt internationally versus Asia Wilson in 24, like it's pretty close. And again, not able to get the title here. What were the playoff numbers last year? 23 a game, yeah, still 50% for the field, or I guess that was 23. 50, yeah, so 21 a game, 50%. Yeah, it's all the same. Still awesome. Still doing her thing for sure. But yeah, we just need, as long as Breanna Stewart not hurt terribly, but maybe the the Liberty are just back to earth a little bit, or just again back to earth anyways. But yeah, shout out of course Asia Wilson, still having a stellar year regardless. Here, let's go player stat update real quick and see what we have got. Collier still 23. Yeah, still second in the league in scoring this year. And Kelsey Plum at 4th. Shout out. Stewart at 18 is still right there as well too, with Beckers, Sabale, and Hamby. Another former ace as well too, though I don't think she's necessarily mad being off the team. And then Seattle, a couple players. Jackie Young back in the mix. So what's the numbers for this? Jackie Young still 32% from 3. But, the scoring number back up is great. And then we got Caitlin Clark at 16 and 8. So, who knows? Like she's not going to be like 16 and 8 for her whole career. That'll go up to the 20 point a game type range. But you got Ryan Howard at 16 and 4.5. Right behind her. Pause. As well, too. Howard, 2022 draft, 25 as well. So, wait a second. How old is... Caitlin Clark was 23 draft, I think. or 24 draft to keep all these players on the same timeline. 24 draft. So Howard does have a couple of seasons on Clark. So she's maybe a little closer to entering her peak, what she would be as a player. But even still, she's right there on the outside of that 20-point a game mark. And I guess we didn't go through the seasons. Maybe she's been at that mark already. Wouldn't be surprised as well, too. Even a Goombawale down a little bit this year, and she's going to be having less shots with Beckers on the team as well. But she could be 20 a game, even with a scoring partner like that here. Let's go advanced stats. I feel like we haven't done an advanced stat check yet for the WNBA. Ayo, shout out. A win shares per 48. Real quick to see. Collier still number 1. Oh, chat. Look at that. Boston number 3 in win shares per 48. So that's the type of stuff. I mean, like we're saying, as much as you want the team to be, it's got to be Caitlin Clark as the best player, and then the hierarchy or whatever. I mean, you just need the superstars to win the title. So you still need Aaliyah Boston to be an elite player, regardless of how elite Caitlin Clark is going to be. So her achieving in this type of levels is the right signs for the Fever as a franchise, not just necessarily them. They've got the one player. They've got all the pieces as well, too. We can't forget about that. Starting to assemble for sure. I mean, even Kelsey Mitchell, and the Fever, again, pretty good team this year. I think right around the 500 range. Yeah, 14-12. Commissioner's Cup champions with Caitlin Clark in the mix. So, they are definitely going to be up there in the stats for sure. But like we're saying, that two-person combination has been good this year. Michaela Timpson is up there. Still 136 minutes played. Let's see here. Where's PER at? Who's cooking in PER? Wilson, number 1 in PER, chat. Still the best player in the league. Confirmed. Lock it in. Collier, number 2, right behind her, though. Pause. At 31.1, 31.4 for A'ja Wilson. Rupert, I guess 37 minutes for Rupert. And then Boston would be 3rd in PER. So does Boston have like a first-team W case for this year? What are the box score stats for her? She's at 15-8-4, 55% from the field. So she's already at 3 All-Stars in 3 years. Yeah, we're cooking. Aaliyah Boston, starting to build a career for herself. What do you know? Hot take, number 1 overall pick from a couple years ago. But I guess, or number 4, shout out Alyssa Thomas, number 3, as well too for Phoenix. But top 5 player as well. So wait a second. Let's go back to the standings here real quick and see where they were at. It said they were 3rd in their conference, right? So overall in the league, they're right in the middle. Pause. 5th best team, 6th best team in the W at this point, right in front of the Aces as 7th best team, and then the Mystics, the 8th team, the last playoff team, and then the Valkyrie, almost a playoff team, and the Sparks are right there, like we're saying, with a potential playoff team as well too. A little level up between the Storm, I guess the Dream with the percentage, but the Storm with 1 more win, and the Mercury, Liberty, and Link are really the top 3 teams. So probably, maybe some double up potential for some of those teams, but for getting like a first team all W player. But Boston could definitely be in the mix as well too, looking at some of these numbers. And Jones is still up there. Stewart is still top 10 for PER as well, so would be still the same names. I guess Thomas makes a pretty good jump. Where was she at in wins per 48? Yeah, she's up there for sure still. But yeah, it really is the consistent, 3-person group right now of Collier, Wilson, and Boston. And again, the legacy of the W is these dominant front court players as well too, as much as there's, of course, great players on every position. But these dominant front court players have been the ones that can kind of ascend to the top of the league consistently year over year and be the most dominant faces in the league. And for her now to be up there with the ones that, again, are at the peak of their powers with Wilson and Collier is now her first sort of, fully MVP front-runner, best player in the league conversation type year. But Boston is now, the next up in that conversation. But you could see in the advanced stats again, kind of already hovering around there as well too. So I guess there's not like a total box score, like a points plus rebounds type thing that we can figure out here. What was Collier with on the rebounds as well too? Can we do like a per game sort on that again? Reese at 12.5. So she's at 26 almost, just over 26 points and rebounds. And I guess we have include assists as well too. Jonquel Jones at 9, Asia Wilson at 9, Azura Stevens 8.5, Ira Finn 8.5, Boston at 8. So she is number 6 in the top rebounds. 15 and 8. So she would be 4th for these people. But Hamby's at 17-8 and 3. We've got Alyssa Thomas at 15-8 and 9. So yeah, Alyssa Thomas is probably a lock as well too to be in the mix. Cardosa's a 12 and 7.8 this year. Okay, and she's at 50% from the field. So once again, you see Chicago in the mix. Where were they at in the standings? They were a little lower. 7 and 18. So I guess it's not quite translating in that way yet. But they got, the building pieces are there for sure. Thornton at 7. So wait, then for assists, we've got, and Thomas leads in assists as well too. So Clark at 16, 8 and 5. Courtney Williams 14, 5 and 6. Natasha Cloud. So Courtney Williams 14, 5 and 6. So she's going to be all W as well too. And then Kelsey Plum a 20 and 6, a 10 and 6 for Natasha Cloud for the Liberty. But Boston's got to be, top 7 or 8 as well too for just the total stats, maybe top 10 for the total stats put together. So shout out here. Wait, do we have an MVP voting thing that we can look at here real quick and do like an MVP standings update and see what we got for that? I don't know if they would have it narrowed down too much. Oh no, not quite yet. Okay, we still got some options here. They're throwing us some fun, for the fans. I guess she's more in the for the fans section, but that's still something anyways. To break into there, you want to still be, as good of a basketball player as possible, obviously, too. And these players are. But, again, still maybe even a couple drafts behind Boston at this point. I guess not Sabrina, but Reese and Beckers anyways. But still all of them at 250 to 1. But Collier, so Thomas is second in MVP voting, I guess. And then Wilson at 37 to 1. Really, it's just those two are in the top. And then Clark at 100 to 1. Stewart, Boston, Sabrina. So the rest of them really is like, okay, Collier and Thomas are the top 2, and then who are the rest of the fans, want to place bets on. And at this point, those we've got, is this sort of the face of the league right now, of the WNBA? Who are we leaving off? Agumbawale, Agumake, for sure. Kelsey Plum, like we're saying, is in that superstar mix as well. Was she on this list? No. And they don't have all W. Playoff? Same game parlay? Valkyrie to make the playoffs? Yes at plus 146. Fever to make the playoffs? No. 9 to 1. Okay, I probably don't want to do that. Mystics to make the playoffs even both ways. So it would have to be a parlay. Can we see? Yeah, we can parlay this. Oh, okay, chat. Can we parlay these? Yeah, we can. To be the 8th seed? Wait a second. Let's go back here real quick. So we're pro Mystics at this point, but does that mean we have to be anti-Aces to be pro Mystics? But Link, Liberty, Mercury, Dream, Storm, Fever, Aces, Mystics. So yeah, I mean, like I said, they were even as well. But if we can't bet them to be the 8th seed. What? They have to be the 7th seed? I guess. No, we can't bet them to be the 7th seed, the 6th seed? No! So we just really are betting between these. Where will these 3 teams finish? Pause. In the playoffs between the Storm, the Fever, and the Liberty. Okay, FanDuel kind of letting us down there. Not going to lie. WNBA team to reach the finals. WNBA team to reach the semis. Okay, I don't know how advanced we are going to be in previewing these bets. But either way, I guess shout out for the return of Cameron Brink and for the Aces, making it a little bit difficult on that front tonight. But we will be back Friday. Friday is a stacked hip-hop day. So we might it'll be an all-nighter, just us listening to albums. It is what it is. You're going to want to stay tuned. You're going to want to locked in. Stay tuned to the podcast feeds, though. We did run out of recording space 2 live streams in a row. I just now realized that again. So the podcast feeds will be a little bit shorter these last couple of episodes than the live streams, but there is still most of the live stream on the podcast feed. On Spotify and Apple and all those different platforms. But yeah, you can find us over there. You can find us here. You can find us everywhere. We're on Instagram as well too, REMINGTOM Pod. If you want to send us a DM over there, the DMs are open. Really, that is the place to message us, of course, over there. But like I said, yeah, we'll be back Friday talking about new music. Our guy Joey's dropping an album. We're excited. I think Metro's album is this weekend as well too. Hopefully, if he clutches up and gives us the summer project right in time for, I guess, more of a, getting into the more back to school range as we get to August, first day of August this Friday. But either way, we'll be locked and loaded, and ready to go for a fun day of hip hop music. So stay tuned, chat. We'll look forward to seeing